Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. This is Kelsey and I's third take of this, just because we want to give you the most perfect audio commentary ever. So it was whether or not we wanted the better audio quality, but have some like really bad laggy issues with sound and visuals and all that stuff, or have everything run smoothly, but be able to hear me a little less volume. And we decided to go with the one that was going to run smoother. So we are here. Kelsey, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Dill. Sorry, that's my cue. That's my turn.
It's
Sorry,
okay.
I just got in a semi-important text, so I need to check it real
Oh, it's
quick.
okay. Well, and the good news about this is we are going to be like watching the movie. So if you have to check your text during it, it's fine. I'll roll. If not, we can just sit back and watch the movie. I mean, this is for you
Sorry.
guys to have people to watch the movie with. If you're all alone and you want to watch this movie, watch it with other people. Kelsey and I are here. We might add some little trivia tidbits, talk about our own experiences watching this movie, our own thoughts on the movie. But overall, this is just for you to sit back, relax, enjoy. Taking a nice week off of like heavily researched things to just enjoy an old movie from 10 years ago. I can't believe it's 10 years old. We're doing this for
Yeah.
the 10-year retrospective because on my channel and on my letterbox, I'm looking at movies from 10 years ago, seeing how they look today. This is fun because I haven't seen this in a little while. It's been less than 10 years since I saw it, but I first saw it 10 years ago, so it'll be interesting to
Mhm.
revisit all those years later. So we have the Disney Plus feed up, and at 2 minutes we will play. So get your Disney Pluses ready, get your Blu-rays ready if you have that. We're going to press play at 2 minutes. So I'll give a countdown: three, two, one, play, and then we'll get ready to go. So we have about 5 seconds to go, and then we will get going. So three, two, one, play. So here we go. Kelsey and I have done this a few times, but this is your first time seeing this. This is the Marvel intro. And we've been saying the past two times we tried to record this commentary that it's really interesting to see how different the intros were back when Disney did not have full control, because this was the
Yeah.
first film distributed by Disney under the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I kind of like the older logos, like the Paramount with the blue kind of covering it right here into the Tesseract. Like I think that's a really cool choice.
Yeah.
Do you prefer the new logos with the dum 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 the music, or do you like this version better? Because I kind of like this.
I think I like the new ones better, Dill, but I think that's just I don't know, probably recency bias and the fact that like I wasn't a fan back in 2012, and that's
Sure.
honestly one of my biggest regrets because I feel like this movie in particular would have been so
Yeah,
cool to watch live in theaters, like opening night, watching everything unfold in real time. Like this was it. This was the first
yeah,
big major team up movie. This is what started it all. So
yeah.
I
I
really
I
wish I could have
remember
been there.
I remember seeing this movie with a pal of mine. I don't know if he was a pal of yours in high school, but AJ Kornberger. I remember we saw this on an afternoon, on a
Okay.
Saturday or Sunday afternoon, opening weekend, packed house. But I wasn't like a huge like MCU fan. I wasn't like a fanatic like I am now, where I
Yeah.
had only seen Iron Man and Thor before this. I hadn't even seen Cap, so like I was kind of in the dark. I didn't realize these were all connected. I thought it was like, oh, cool, all these
Oh.
heroes are coming together. It wasn't until later when Avengers: Age of Ultron came out where I was like, I should go back and watch them all to get them all connected. Um, so I didn't know the whole Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo thing. I didn't know the deal with Nick Fury really, because again, I didn't stay for the post credits in Iron Man. So this was all like new to me. So
Wow.
it was a pretty
You were
cool
that
experience.
newbie leaving before the post-credit scene.
I did see the post credit scene of this film because everyone else was
Okay.
staying in their seats. So I was like, okay, should probably stay.
Yeah, this one was just one of those when I was catching myself up for Guardians or whatever the next film was after that. Um, just one that I watched alone by myself on my couch. So it was
Yeah,
pretty entertaining and fun nonetheless, but definitely not as climactic had
yeah.
it been in the theaters.
It's interesting because 2012, this is the first, as you said, team up movie, but now we've seen so many other team ups in this franchise that have gotten even bigger. It'll be interesting
Mhm.
looking back now and seeing if the smaller scale, because this isn't small scale, but in comparison to the others, it kind of is, which is really interesting. Like, this is smaller than Infinity War Endgame at this point, but at 2012, this was huge.
Mhm.
So here we have
Yeah.
Kobe Smolders as Maria Hill, and this is a funny tidbit I looked up because I have some research, just
Yeah.
just for talking
Please.
points. There were some actresses up for Agent Maria Hill, and it's interesting how Kobe Smolders got the role. So Morena Baccarin, who plays the love interest in Deadpool, was one of the final candidates. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Ewan McGregor's wife, who was in the Birds of Prey movie, so in the DCEU, was
Yep,
up
yep,
for
yep.
Agent Maria Hill as well, and Kobe Smolders, and it ended up being Allison Hannigan from How I Met Your Mother, who was also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was made by Joss Whedon. She was the one who said, like, my co-star Kobe Smolders can do this. She's great, and she basically got her the part. So
Wow.
Joss Whedon and Allison Hannigan have worked together on Buffy. Allison Hannigan and Kobe Smulders on How I Met Your Mother, and they made that connection. So Kobe Smulders
Wow.
becomes a long mainstay in the MCU because of that. And she's still in the MCU. She's still popping up in things, in a small role, but a great, prominent role nonetheless.
Yeah, a great little feature for sure. It's times like these where I kind of have to like dig back and remember. I'm like, okay, so the last time we saw Loki was in Thor. He, like let go in the Rainbow Bridge and or on his way to the Bifrost, ended up somewhere in space. Obviously, had stumbled upon the Chitauri, but then we
Yeah.
also have to remember, like, I think it might have been the post-credit scene.
Of Thor,
Oh, of Thor, where he goes to Eric Selvig and is like,
I feel like it might have been that. Yeah,
where he's
yeah,
possessing him and is like, oh yeah, well, we'll have to take a look at that or something. He says
because that's
something
also
like
where we
that.
first see Hawkeye is in Thor,
Mhm.
because he's with Agent
Mhm.
Coulson with a hammer, which is very interesting.
Yes.
So Hawkeye's not a new character, but I mean, to someone like me who was watching this, having known what like Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America were, I was like, "Who's this Hawkeye guy?" And because they set him up to be almost like a pseudo villain for some of this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember either reading or hearing a lot of people say that like Jeremy Renner was pretty disappointed with how Hawkeye was written in the
Mm.
first movie, just because he was like whole like you know first two acts of that film, I'm not even playing Hawkeye, I'm playing like someone who's
Ah,
possessing Hawkeye.
right.
So it was just like not, quote unquote, I think he said, not what I signed up for. So
Yeah.
I just always think about that when because I don't know, I think Jeremy Renner should just be pleased that he's an MCU film. But
Yeah.
again,
Well,
I have.
also at the time, you never know how these actors felt about the MCU. Was it a big deal or not back in the day? I don't
Mhm.
know. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was kind of well known when he started, but like Chris Evans, not really a huge star. Mark Ruffalo, pseudo big star. I mean, he had 13 Going on 30, Zodiac, a few things, but like Tom
Mhm.
Hiddleston, not a big star until this. Chris Hemsworth, same thing, not a big star until this. Jeremy Renner, he was in an Oscar-winning Best Picture film, The Hurt Locker, but he wasn't like a mainstream name yet either. So it's really
Mm.
interesting to see the star power and who was making their star turns with this movie versus who was already established. Like Nick Fury, obviously Samuel L. Jackson, a big get.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 for sure.
Oh, I love that. The eyes turning black. Yeah.
Yeah. Really good special effects.
And again, this is the only Oscar it's nominated for is Best Visual Effects because I think at the time, I think one thing that Marvel has really gotten well is like their world building, but also their visual effects, especially when trying to tie it into America, like and stuff that looks familiar. Not making it look too comic booky and fake, but making it feel
Mhm.
realistic to the universe. Sometimes it works better than others, but I think this one it works pretty well.
Something that I also am noticing, Dill, that I'm appreciating, like artistically, is the costume designs. I think that
Mhm.
Samuel Jackson right now as Nick Fury looks super, super cool, and like his black, like long leather
Yeah,
jacket. Loki's suit looks like, it's like you said, it doesn't feel too comic booky. It still feels like pretty real world and realistic. And you can
yeah,
tell, like, this is what I loved about like movies, like, not, I don't want to say back in the day, because like 10 years ago, I hope is not back in the day for us, but
yeah.
everything is very practical and tangible, and like it's things
Mhm.
like that we're missing now in these newer films, where we're so advanced with CGI and special effects that we just CGI suits on people now. You
Yeah,
know what I
I
mean?
I agree. I don't like the CGI suits. I think when it's noticeable. Obviously, when you're first watching something, it kind of goes over your head. But I love when you can tell that every ounce of the fabric has been, effort put into it. And we talked about that with Moon Knight, how like sometimes the costume looks a little fake, um, and I think that shows. Whereas something like Black Panther, I think it looks really real, and that's why that costume win at the Oscars is very well warranted and very well deserved because it looks
Yeah.
and feels real to the culture and to just the actual costumes and not CGI.
Like even like Hawkeye and Maria Hill, who are kind of just all like in black, like it's still it has like a specific style, and
Yeah,
like you can tell like it's
it's
everything
slick.
on her and everything on him is like functional.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
just for the look. It's like for like, well, what would a special agent working for Shield need on them at all times kind of thing. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And especially like this moment, like Hawkeye like just shot Nick Fury. Like could you imagine watching that? I mean, like you don't have to imagine because you did see it in theaters, but like could you imagine like I don't know, just like the shock and awe of like just
yeah,
watching like Nick Fury go down in like the first, what are we, 8 minutes into the film?
right.
Like,
Yeah, this is a great chase too. I wish there were more car chases in Marvel films. Black
mm,
Panther has a cool one. This has a good one, but like a lot of it is like space battles or shooting people with things. But I love just a
yeah.
good car chase.
Well, the good thing about this film is that, it all takes place on Earth. So
Yeah,
it can't get too, science fictiony or out of out of
out of world. Yeah,
out of world
otherworldly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Otherworldly, literally, exactly.
Mhm.
So it's nice to see
Yeah,
things like just like your standard car chase.
right. I love Agent Coulson too. I wish he was more of a mainstay in the movies, but as we know in this movie, if you've never seen this movie, we won't spoil what happens, but or what happens, but then doesn't happen, but then happens really. I don't know.
Who knows?
And we are
Is
not
a
Agents of Shield people, so like we don't really know the ins and outs of exactly where his character goes in that. But
yeah.
just you know, I love that visual effect of just everything kind of crumbling and it's like a big sinkhole. I love that. Like that looks really really good.
Damn, yeah. And you're just watching Shield collapse.
Yeah.
And I guess it's funny that they're like, okay, so our whole base is fallen through the earth. What's the next move? You know what? Let's not be on the ground. Let's take it in the air so
Right.
that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. I wish they also gave Maria Hill a little bit more to do as the movies went on, because like this one feels very Maria Hill, Nick Fury, Agent Coulson heavy. Whereas I feel like
Yeah.
later on, like in Far From Home, she's just kind of there to be there because she needs to be there. I wish she had a little bit more of a character. Uh, I don't know.
Hmm. Nick Fury, you think you're gonna stop him with a pistol, with a handgun? What's happening?
Yeah, that's another
He-
thing they do well in this is making Loki very very scary and destructive
yeah.
because in Thor, it's like they're in a whole nother universe. You have to make it, you know, acquaint him with Earth first to make it seem like even bigger of a catastrophe. And I think they do. They
Yeah.
make it seem like he's very menacing, which is funny in retrospect, also because Loki now, as we know him, is a little bit of a softie in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, when we first meet him in Thor, he kind of always walks this line between good and evil. And in this one, like it's very much like all bad, all scary, all like, he just took out all of Shield.
Right.
Like obviously he's a very powerful being.
Yeah.
That
So we saw the title there, Marvel's The Avengers, and they had to put the Marvels there because there were two other films called The Avengers that had nothing to do with Marvel. It was just, about a group of people avenging something. It's a very common name.
mm,
Just like a movie called The Warriors, it's very vague. In the United Kingdom, actually, they called it Marvel Avengers Assemble was the title they released it as. So they needed to do that to kind of, differentiate itself to make people know like this was Marvel's Avengers, so that way if you're watching on TV and you see the Avengers, it might not be this movie, which I always thought was interesting.
thanks for that fun fact, Dill. I didn't know that.
I have a lot of cool fun facts to come. I'm gonna
Oh,
kind of
good. I'm
just
glad.
disperse them as much as I can. Um,
I will say, Dill, I think that this scene with Natasha, like her opening sequence, is like I think my favorite in this whole
in the whole
movie.
movie,
Yeah.
starting early.
I think it's
Yeah,
just
I
so
agree.
badass and
It's great.
cool and like
What I love
yeah.
about it too is it is so small scale. Like that's what I love about Natasha, and that's what I feel like was lost a little bit in Black Widow was the fact that like she is very good at like the ground, just punching and kicking, and that's all she needs. She doesn't need all the glitz and glam and blasters and shields and all that. She could just get it, or knock people out with her sheer strength and agility, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't need the big falling from the middle of the air in Black Widow and jumping around and flying in the air. Like I didn't need all that because like this is the cool stuff. Is when she
No,
could just
yeah.
take care of them with her bare hands.
And this scene is like such a good balance of like action and comedy
Hmm.
because like they're just like give the phone to the woman and she like
Yeah.
takes it and she's like what's up, I'm working, what do you want? She's like, this guy's giving me everything. I just think that this scene is like so stellar, 10 out of
Yeah.
10. And she does all of this in a freaking dress. I
Right.
can barely walk from the restaurant to the Uber in a dress and heels, and
Yeah.
she takes down these like four knuckleheads.
I say as a 14-year-old watching this in theaters, I was a big fan of her look in this, but I can
Oh
see
my god.
why no I can see the criticisms though of them objectifying Black Widow a little bit earlier on, which I think has been an improvement of her character over time in the MCU, is that they make it less about the sex appeal and more about just her being a great hero. But the sex appeal when you're Scarlett Johansson just never leaves, so like they don't even need to try really, and I don't think they need to make it such a point to make it
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. Signature move, the straddle around the neck and pull down. That's and another thing this movie does well is like you can't tell when it's the stunt double and when it's her. She may even
Mhm.
be the stunt double. I don't know. That's something I might have to look into because it was seamless.
And
That's funny.
sh and she does such a good switch in this scene between like pretending to be like the scared girl who's trapped, making, leading these men on to believe that,
Yeah.
she's not as powerful as she is, to switching right around and, becoming exactly who she is,
Right.
which is the badass Black Widow.
Yeah. So what country are we in now, Kels? Do you know?
We are in India, Calcutta
Oh,
exactly.
I'm gonna
To be
keep asking you
exact.
because I need to know for future trivia purposes. Maybe this is a good little study refresher for me. So Mark Ruffalo here. Obviously, this was the first like huge recasting. Obviously, we had Terrence Howard becoming Don Cheadle, and everyone going, "Whoa, what happened there in Iron Man 2?" But like, this
Mm,
was big. This was one of the core six Avengers. But actually, Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo was in the talks for the role way back in 2008. Like,
mm,
he was one of the first choices to play him. He just couldn't fit it with his schedule. So he was always
mm,
on the radar. So I think this was almost kind of what Marvel really did want. And him and Edward Norton are friends, and Mark Ruffalo has talked about how it was like an honor to kind of like take the role from him. Um, Almost compared it to like Hamlet, how like you have to like live up to the other actor's shoes and honor it
mm.
because it's such a
Yeah.
precious role. And I agree because it's my favorite character in the MCU. So I'm excited to
Do we
see
know
Mark Ruffalo.
why Edward Norton wasn't a
Um,
part of the MCU anymore? Was
I
it
don't know. I mean, there's always rumors that it's because of creative differences. There's rumors that it's he wasn't getting paid enough. It was rumors that he just didn't want to be part of a franchise. And I think um, Edward Norton has or Mark Ruffalo has spoken out about how Edward Norton himself said that he didn't like the idea of having to like go through the growth again because he felt like at the end of Incredible Hulk he had already kind of like accepted the dichotomy between him and the Hulk, and like this movie was kind of starting with him still in a kind of back to square one, and he would kind of have to go
okay?
through that again, and Edward Norton didn't like that, but I don't know if that's the reason why he left. But he felt like you know this movie would kind of just be defeating all the growth that the last movie had. Because the Incredible Hulk kind of feels like an enigma at this point in the MCU. It just feels like its own little kind of separate thing um, in the grand scheme of things.
Hmm. And what I noticed about this film, Dill, like right off the bat, was how like, I mean, it still like has some style to it because it's very, you know, cinematic. Like it has to
Yeah,
be, everything is so big in this movie. The action sequences, the characters, the costumes, like everything is, kind of a little bit camp and like a
Yeah.
skeptical, whereas now we have like later films like the Eternals that are shot so differently and directed with like such a different lens, where it's like we can now start branching up to different styles in the MCU, which I'm really
Yeah.
excited for, because if all of the movies felt and looked like this one, I feel like they would definitely get too repetitive, and it
Yeah.
would just get boring and very stale like very quickly.
Right. And I think it's also because it's tough because like how do you get Thor, who's the god of another like place like Asgard,
Mhm.
and like this incredible Hulk, but also with this scientist Tony Stark and Natasha, who's a spy. Like how do you connect all of them? And I think they do a very good job of it. But stylistically, it's hard to have them all exist in the same place and not and be able to find a middle ground style that works for all of it. And they find it here. But I agree with you. Like in later movies, if they had kind of kept that kind of similar style, it would have made everything kind of feel a bit the same.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. And just another good sequence with Natasha, you can
Yeah,
never tell, she kind of walks this line of like being Natasha and being Black Widow.
right.
And you just see Scarlett Johansson making those adjustments the entire time.
And she's got one of the toughest jobs because she doesn't have like a suit or like she doesn't have all the armor to put on to differentiate herself. She doesn't turn into another creature. She is still her. She looks and sounds the same no matter if she's
Mhm.
Natasha or Black Widow. Which I think is a tough task. So
No,
just a
yeah,
little
for
time, a
sure.
little time check if people want to know where exactly we're at. We are approaching 20 minutes right now, so we are at the 20-minute mark. Kelsey, I hope you're around there too, right?
So, yes, I
Okay,
am.
good, good, good,
We're
good.
we're talking to the council, right?
Yes,
This is
yes,
the
yes.
first shots of all
Mhm.
these people that we see again in the Winter Soldier,
That's right.
and I think they might be the same actors. I can tell at least the
Mhm.
woman is. Um, I'm not sure about the others, but
Well, by
probably.
soldiers. So we're coming up on Cap. Here it is, and this moment's great because in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I'm gonna make a few comparisons because Joss Whedon, made Buffy, made this movie. There's a part coming up where Cap literally knocks the bag down just from sheer strength.
Hmm.
It's coming up in a little bit. We'll let it happen, and then I'll tell you. But in a
Yeah.
Buffy episode titled "The Gift," Buffy actually did this in an episode where she punched the punching bag so hard that it fell. So, like, some people say it's a little bit of an homage to that. There it is,
Okay.
where he just kind of punches it with his sheer force. So maybe a little homage, maybe not, maybe just a coincidence. But I have to believe there's some sort of tribute there, because that's where Joss Whedon really got his career taken off. That and Toy Story.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. This is interesting too because I had originally heard that this movie there was like a 3 hour, 4 hour cut of this, and a lot of the stuff that was cut was Steve kind of readjusting to this modern world. And I wish there was a little bit more of that because I think that's one of the coolest parts about the ending of First Avenger. And going
Hmm.
into this movie having not seen First Avenger, that little montage I didn't feel like did it complete justice. I would have liked to have
Hmm.
maybe a scene of him going out to get a drink and realizing how expensive things are nowadays, or just not being able to have the right lingo or something like kind of like what we see with Bucky in Falcon and the Winter Soldier when he's like kind of just talking to older people and trying to fit in with this younger crowd, even though he's an old man in a young man's body. Like, I
Hmm.
wish there was a little bit of that because I feel like if you're watching this without those other films, you lose a little bit of that. And you have to be like, wait, so he's from the past? Like, I never got that when I first watched this. I didn't really connect that he was from the 40s. They kind of
Okay.
they kind of drop it as it goes on, but I wish they explored it a little bit more because I think it would have been interesting. But again, you can't have a 4 hour movie in theaters. So,
I'm
oh,
wearing
he's
my
wearing the
OG
caption.
cap shirt.
Nice.
I just had to show that off. And this is really OG because this is like a shirt from childhood.
So he was always your favorite, right? Like when you were
Cap?
watching these? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just because I have a fat crush on Chris Evans. That
Well,
might have a little something to do with it, I think.
Chris Evans, who was no stranger to Marvel, he was Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four movies,
Yeah.
which we'll get to at some point on this channel, I'm sure. Maybe not a
Which,
commentary, maybe just a little review, because I don't know. I don't know if we'll have the kindest words to say, but
Which is interesting because he was in Fantastic Four, but then when it came to getting offered Steve Rogers, to getting offered Cap, he had some reservations, you know. He was like, that's gonna be quite the commitment. I don't know what that would look how that would fit in what, I envision my career to look like. And
Yeah.
it's just problems I hope to have one day,
Yes.
as an
Yes.
aspiring actor. I'm like, how would this major franchise fit in my schedule?
And here's
And of
Tony and
course,
Pepper. These are the two I feel like everyone kind of knew very well going into this movie. Like
mhm,
we had felt like we had two movies with these two.
yeah.
Um, and there's the Stark Tower. That A, the iconic A.
There's a building in New York now, Dill, the observatory they just added, and it kind of has like this little lift that he's walking on now.
Oh,
And from afar, like it really looks like Stark Tower.
wow.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, the Avengers Tower. It's here in New York.
I was gonna say the MetLife building on Park Ave is kind of like reminiscent. I think they kind of used when they were designing it, they used the base of the MetLife building and then obviously changed the top when
Mm,
designing this building because in geography, it would generally be geographically in that general region in comparison to the Chrysler Building, Empire State, and all those things. So if you ever see the MetLife building in Park, that's generally where this tower would be located if it actually existed, which is pretty cool.
mm.
Now, this is a very interesting little tidbit is that if you look closely, Gwyneth Paltrow does not wear shoes when she's in Stark Tower. And it's because if she was wearing shoes, she'd be the same height, if not taller, than Robert Downey Jr. So they wanted to make him look taller.
Oh.
So whenever you see her walking around, she is barefoot and he does have shoes. See, right there. She is barefoot because they didn't want her to be taller than him, which I think is hilarious. But the question is, why does she need to be shorter? Why can't she be taller?
Just, gender roles and stereotypes that we were all still abiding by back in 2012. As we've seen, we've come a long way in the MCU because Zendaya towers over Tom
That is
Holland.
that is a good point.
She definitely has a few inches on him, and I don't even think that they really try to hide it or quote unquote correct it in any way. They just kind of let it be. And even
Right.
Zendaya and Tom Holland joke about their height difference, you know, off
Yeah.
off screen as well.
Well, obviously it didn't matter because they are still at the time of recording, still together. Still very happy. Oh, we hope.
Yeah.
His first name is Agent. I love that quote. That's a great quote.
Hmm.
It's interesting to see, like, these dialogue lines and wondering what was Joss Whedon's and what was, Robert Downey Jr. because he is known to have improv'd a lot of lines on set.
Mm.
And I have a few written down that he improvises later, but, it'll be interesting to see exactly, like, if you were to, like, ever sit down and talk with Robert Downey Jr. to be like, how much is actually improv? Because I'd love to know.
Did Joss write it?
Yes, the writers, let me pull that up for a sec because there are two writers worth noting. One is Joss Whedon, who also directed the film, and then um, Zach Penn, who also wrote The Incredible Hulk. He wrote X2, X-Men 2. He just wrote
Mm.
Free Guy, and he wrote Ready Player
Mm.
One. So he's got his fair share of experience with comic book films or nerd-related films.
Yeah.
He also wrote the Fantastic Four video game, believe it or not.
And all of this is just like these are constant themes in Tony and Pepper's relationship. He's like, "Well, what if
Yeah,
I didn't?"
yeah,
And she's like, and she says later on, like, getting you to stop has always been one of the few failures in my life.
yeah.
And you can see it all the way back in this first movie that
Yeah.
he's always been looking for a way out and he just couldn't find one.
Oh, I love their relationship. I really do. I think
Hmm.
it's obviously the most well developed. Um, what is your favorite if you had to ship one relationship now, having seen all you've seen? Like, what is your number one MCU ship?
Oh man. Hmm. Honestly, I was gonna say, Dill, like a relationship that we saw very recently that I feel like is pretty reminiscent of Tony and Pepper is Layla and Mark.
Ah,
I feel like
in
they
Moon
have
Knight.
a pretty
Yeah,
solid foundation. Um, going into, I'm assuming we're going to see more of their story. I mean, I
Yeah.
hope that we do, because they seem pretty solid, and they seem like they're pretty right for each other. And I feel like we just haven't seen two people really be super, super stable since Tony and Pepper. Because,
Right.
like Steve loses Peggy, Thor loses Jane, Mark, that's Mark Ruffalo, but Bruce and
Bruce.
Natasha end up not working out.
Yeah.
So it's
Funny
like,
enough, Bruce and Natasha, funny enough, I did read this too. Scarlett Johansson and Mark Ruffalo have the same birthday. They were both born on November 22nd. Well, what does that make them? Are they
what
Scorpios?
zodiac sign
No,
is that? I think they're Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Okay. And I have another one for you. Stellan Skarsgård. I messed up that name. Who plays Eric Selvig has the same birthday as Chris Evans, which is June 13th. What is June 13th?
Gemini.
Gotcha.
Wow, June 13th.
Is that Juneteenth, or is Juneteenth the 19th, or I don't remember.
I think Juneteenth is June 19th.
19th, yeah. That's pretty cool. So 2 stars. I don't know how often Chris Evans and Stellan Skarsgård have ever been on screen together in this. I don't even know if they are. But obviously Natasha and Bruce are. So that's pretty cool. They're birthday buddies.
Dill, it's interesting to think about how I remember watching the assembled episode of Loki, and how Tom Hiddleston talks about how he was first seen for Thor. And I always think
Really?
about, I'm like, wow, that would be such an interesting take on Thor. They got him all up in like the cape and like the armor and everything. I think he, had
Wow.
like pretty blonde hair at the time. I think he might be a natural brunette, but he had like the blonde hair and everything. And he's totally doing the Thor lines. They like cut to some audition clips of him, but they ended up, he ended up working much better as Loki, I feel, because I honestly can't think of someone who could do it better than he does.
And vice versa. I don't think anyone could do Thor better than Chris Hemsworth,
Yeah. No,
Like,
I
I think they
agree.
are perfect. And obviously in retrospect, maybe that's just because we've spent so much time with them, but like I don't think anyone could have done those roles different
I just think that with
or the
Thor,
same.
like I wish they had a clearer, you know, uh like picture for him.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in Thor Ragnarok, he really like takes on his own. Where in
Yeah.
like the first 2 Thor movies, they're very theatrical, very like Shakespearean. But I feel like, at the end of the day, like Thor is a himbo. And
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth does that very well. He does that style of comedy very,
Yeah.
very well. So I think that if they had known that about Chris Hemsworth and they really honed in on that, I think the first 2 Thor movies would have been more
Yeah.
successful. Ew, look at this guy's red teeth. I'm
Ugh.
just like noticing that. Oh, and there's the big like giant worm things flying in the background. Wow,
Yeah.
so many things to pick up on. But what number time would you say you're watching this movie right now?
4 or 5. Like, I really don't watch these movies all the way through a lot. Usually
Mm.
it'll be like it's on TV and I catch it. And whenever it's on TV, I always catch the Battle of New York. That's like just what happens. And so
Okay.
like all this stuff, I probably only watched 3 or 4 times because I saw it in theaters, watch it again in prep for like when Age of Ultron came out, and then watch it again in prep for Infinity War, and then I probably watched it 1 time since. So this is probably 4 or 5.
I want to say this is like approaching 10 for me.
Wow.
If not 10, then approaching 10 for
At
sure.
what point, when you watch these movies over and over, do you begin to memorize them? Because they're long, but like, could you quote any of the MCU movies yet, like word for word? Do you think?
Yes, for sure.
Wow.
I watched the I did the MCU watch with my parents when I think we were still in quarantine, we had nothing better to do. And
Yeah.
they were like, well, let's see what all these movies like. Why do you like these movies so much? So I did the whole watch with them, and they started to get really annoyed with me because they would say things, and I would say the first line before like I would say the response before the character in the movie said it, and they were like, "Stop doing that." I was like, "I can't help it. Like, I just know. I know these movies fairly well."
Am I the only one who thinks that Mark Ruffalo looks a little younger now than he did back then? Or is that just because we've seen him as Professor Hulk and it's different? Because like
Oh.
he looks older here, and but the thing is, he never
Mhm.
looks old. He just looks older.
Well, I
Like,
think they're kind of making him look a little schleppy. Like
yeah,
his like suit doesn't really fit too
yeah,
well. He's like the nervous, like nerdy scientist guy. So
another great
I
visual effect right here. I love it.
I think maybe later on he starts to look a little cooler, a
Yeah,
little more put together. Maybe that's what's aging him a little bit.
I do like that choice though, the schleppy look, because he's
Yeah.
someone who's, if he grows, his clothes get torn off anyway. So I don't think
Yeah,
he really
that's true.
cares too much about his fit of his clothes.
And I love the choice to put him in a purple button down. I feel like that was very purposeful.
Oh yeah,
And especially when the jacket comes off, the glasses come on, and they're doing all the work with the scepter. It's
right.
very cool.
You know what I realized? Thor does not show up for a while. He still hasn't shown up.
Hmm.
We're half hour into this.
Yeah, he doesn't show up until they get Loki, because then he's like, well, I'm not. They're like, what, scared of a little lightning? And he's like, I'm not too fond with what follows after. See, I can't quote
You're
this.
doing the thing. I was about to say you're doing the thing where you quote it like
Sorry.
4 scenes before. It's okay. And we're getting
Right.
the first hints of the theme in here too, the music theme. Alan Silvestri, I believe this is the first time ever someone had
Hmm.
done 2 compositions for the MCU, and he would go on to do even more. But I believe, I forget which one he had done before. I think it was maybe First Avenger or Thor. Um,
Alan Silvestri, this was he did this one, and then he did Avengers Infinity War.
yeah, he did Endgame too. I know that because it's my favorite score of the MCU. But I can't remember if there was one before this. Oh, look now. We have time. We have
I
2 hours.
I have a whole notebook of where I wrote down because I was studying for the trivia match.
Right.
So I like have this all written down.
You're right. It was well, first he did First Avenger. So yeah, this was his second. And then he did Age of Ultron, which he did the themes for. He didn't do the score for, but his theme was used in that. Uh he composed the score for Infinity War, and he composed the score for Endgame. So he's done a bunch.
Yes.
Kelsey needs to make sure her facts are straight.
I had that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason I couldn't think of who did First Avenger, but yes, it was Alan Silvestri. Avengers
Who
Infinity War Endgame.
I've loved always is from the '80s with Back to the Future, but also he did
Mm.
Forrest Gump in the '90s. He's just always cranking out great music.
Wow, you said Back to the Future, Dill, and I'm like, I can totally like hear the themes and like
Yeah.
the influences in like his composing style in this
Yeah.
movie compared to the music in Back to the Future.
Yeah, so there's Selvig again. Still no Selvig and Cap though. So like I don't know if the birthday boys ever shared the screen.
You're like, I'm determined to see the men who share June 13th as a birthday together on screen.
Well, because also I don't want to spoil Multiverse of Madness, so I won't. But there is a certain cameo that pops up, and turns out Elizabeth Olsen was not on set with that person. So she took like a lie detector test, which happened recently,
I saw this
where she
still.
was like, "I have never met this person face to face," and it's funny because she's true. Because nowadays they can just film everything on green screen, and you don't have to be in the same room as one another. But back then,
Yeah.
I think there was a lot more of practical sets, and people actually being with their scene partners, which I think should be the way it is. But with
You
cameos,
know,
I
they
get it.
they like you were saying before, Dale, with Bruce and how he looks kind of older. Up, this is the first time we see Agent Sitwell,
That's right.
Jasper Sitwell. Comes up in a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
Maximilian Hernandez. Fun fact.
Wow.
Anyway,
So
they're even
trivia, buddy.
aging. It's my memory. They're even aging Cap a little bit. Like in
Yeah.
his, like he has very like 1940s esque style clothing on, and I can totally get that choice. But like they definitely age him down a ton. He gets definitely more modern in the Winter Soldier, and from there on out, he's looks pretty normal. But like here, you see him in like his flannel button down and his like his high waisted slacks, if you will, his trousers.
And here's the
And
suit. I love that shot of just yeah, you don't see anything, you barely hear it, but you see them get struck with the arrows and fall. I mean,
Mhm.
that we should have known from the beginning how deadly Clint really was. We always kind of make fun of Clint, but in Hawkeye, when he's really tearing those people apart, like it makes sense why he's so good. Like he's a sharp shot.
Yeah.
Another great attention to costume here with Loki. It very fits the Loki vibe, but also feels like he can blend in. Um,
Yes.
just really, really smart costuming choices all throughout.
It's a pretty gnarly one to watch. I
Yeah,
mean, he's doing this in a room full of people.
yeah. Because again, he doesn't know. It's a different world to him. Like he thinks he can just you know declare war and start beating people up. Like that would never fly in America. But actually, you never know.
Huh. Let's not go there.
I mean, hey, maybe it's a good commentary for that. Just like who knows?
Yeah.
Just how like not many people have control over anything in some respects. And there's
I
that
saw
great
a
suit scene.
TikTok today, Dale. That
Yep.
was like it was one of those like what would you do shows, but it wasn't what would you do, and I'm pretty sure the whole thing was fake anyway because like they made it they had it was like a cafe and they had rigged
Okay.
it so like this guy came up to this girl, like started bothering her, and she was like, just get away from me, shot her hand out, and they made it look like she had like flung him across the room, like with her,
Wow.
like almost as if she had like telekinesis or something. And then they rigged some like tables and chairs to move when she moved her arms. And like all these people were like freaking out. And I feel like if I was there, I would be like, okay, where are the cameras? Like, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, this girl has telekinesis. I have at least a single brain cell that tells me, common sense. But it was just crazy to watch that those people believed it.
That was a very Yoda line. Is not this simpler? Wouldn't it be? Is
Hmm.
this not simpler?
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah. No, you're right.
it only gives more personality though. The way you
No,
speak and
yeah.
the way you arrange your sentences and what are they called? Clauses. I don't know.
Sure.
It's been a while.
We see him using his projection
Hmm.
here.
I would love to be one of these extras. You know.
Yeah. Except, like, I'm just thinking about how long they were all had to be on their knees. You know what I mean?
They probably gave him some knee pads and some nice towels to kneel on.
I love this moment where he's like, I'm not
Ah,
kneeling to you.
there comes Cap. So yeah, this was
He
my
ended up
first time seeing.
disagreeing.
This is my first time
Sorry.
seeing him in the suit because I hadn't seen First Avenger yet. So this was really cool for me because I do love Cap. He was someone who I did read the comics for, but never saw his movie for some reason. I think because it came out the same summer as Thor, and like I didn't realize how big this Avengers thing was gonna be. That I was like, oh, there's superhero movies. I'll go see the Thor one. I don't know why I didn't see
Hmm.
a First Avenger, but
I
a lot of
love
people
Cap.
saw this one though. Yeah.
Oh, he just got
What were you
hit.
gonna say, Kelsey?
I still react to these movies if I haven't seen them like 10 times. I'm like, ooh. um, I just love Cap because like he's always to the core of him, he just always does what is right. And it's
Yeah,
not for any, agenda or institution. Shoot to Thrill comes in. We
yeah.
heard it once before in Iron Man 2. Fun fact.
Oh yeah, that's the song. Reindeer Games.
That's he always has some AC/DC playing
Yeah.
behind him.
And that's another signature is calling characters by movie names like Point Break, Reindeer Games.
Mm.
What's the other one? There's another one. Is it Green Mile? No, I don't know.
God, I hope not. That movie's sad.
Yeah, but he says something the whole. I don't know. Oh, Manchurian Candidate, maybe. I don't know.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Anyway, his nicknames are good, And again, I don't know how much of it is his, or if it's Joss Whedon, but
Mm.
good writing. And I do want to. I haven't said anything, but Joss Whedon in the news. He's one thing about this movie that hasn't aged well as a person. But when we're talking about him, we're talking specifically about the writing in this film. We're not praising
Mm.
him as a person. Just wanted to get that out of the way because I could imagine people being like, "You're giving him so much credit," and like he did write this, and the writing is fairly good. But it's worth saying just because there are people who will be upset about it too. Because I don't
No,
want to keep
yeah.
saying his name, but a lot of the trivia, a lot of the fun facts have to do with decisions he made. Um, one being, which is very interesting, Joss Whedon originally intended on two other heroes being in this film, but thought it would be too bloated to have them. Any guesses
Okay.
on who they are?
Are they heroes we see later on,
Yes.
or we've never met them before?
Yes. Oh, here's Thor. Here's Thor's first appearance.
Mm-hmm. Damn. Look at those long locks.
And out they go. Any guesses though?
Hmm. Let me think. Who do we meet like later on?
And then the next part of the game is going to be guessing who he would have cast as one of them, which is even
Okay.
crazier to me. Not crazy, but like OMG,
All right. Well, this is my first guess just because he's in New York. But Dr. Stephen Strange?
Actually, no, not Doctor Strange.
Okay.
No.
Two characters that we see later on.
But one thing about Doctor Strange, while we're at it, because we have time to talk about all this, but Joaquin Phoenix was actually one of the first choices for Doctor Strange before Benedict Cumberbatch came on board. So
Oh,
Joaquin
wow.
Phoenix, and there was actually a rumor that he was in talks to also be the Hulk way back when. So Joaquin Phoenix never quite got the MCU check, but he did get to play the Joker. So I
Yeah,
think
that's
he's
true.
mighty fine with the paycheck he got and the Oscar he got with it. But I'll let you keep
First,
guessing about that pair that he wanted in the. That's a hint. A pair of heroes that he wanted in this film.
was it Wanda and Pietro?
It was not Juan and Pietro.
But they're like a package deal, the two of them?
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
And we meet them later on?
In the franchise, not in this movie, obviously.
Yeah, in the franchise.
I love these scenes, by the way, with Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth because this is when their
Mhm.
relationship is most fractured, and I honestly kind of prefer the dramatic moments here than when they are closer. It's nice to see the growth, but like the acting really shines in these moments for them.
Yeah.
Your mind is just racing right now, trying to think of this.
No, I'm like I'm paying attention to the movie, but I'm like, what movie like came out after this? I'm like, you know what? I have my whole notebook in front of me. Let's just Was it Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne?
That is correct. So
Really?
Joss Whedon originally wanted Ant-Man and the Wasp to be in this film. Actually, I think the plan was for the Wasp to be the girl of the group, not even Black Widow.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and originally, you're never gonna guess this. Maybe you will. Who do you think Joss Whedon originally wanted to play Wasp? I don't know who he wanted for Ant-Man, but there is document report of him apparently wanting a certain actress to play the Wasp. Do you have an idea?
I'm just going off of who was super big in 2012, so my guess is Jennifer Lawrence.
No, but
Okay.
that's a good guess. I did a double feature the other day because I am on my letterbox going back and watching movies from 10 years ago, and I did a double feature of Hunger Games and Silver Linings Playbook, the two J Law movies that really like launched her into stardom. Hunger Games, a lot of fun, great memories attached to that. Silver Linings Playbook, I liked it better 10 years ago. I don't know why I didn't love it this
Okay.
time, but um, yeah. But if you want to hear me talk more about it, everyone picture this. This month is going to be 2012 movie, so we will talk about Silver Linings Playbook. I still like it. Good performances. Rocket Raccoon, Bradley Cooper is in that as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
We really see Iron Man fighting a lot of his peers. We see him fight Thor here. We see him fight Hulk
Shakespeare in
in
the
the next
Park.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
See him fight
Well,
Cap in Civil War. He's just, yeah.
poorest, he calls him. Oh my god. It's just funny to think about all those shots of him in the helmet are like done separately on like some sort of sound stage, I'm
Right.
sure. So it's like, but it's so fluid that like you would never know.
No. Hell, they might have been filmed before or after.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
who knows how long before or after? Any guesses on that actress?
Mm,
This is fun. It's taking up some good time in this commentary. I'm trying to think. If anyone else has any thoughts of who would have been a good Wasp, let us know down below. But
can I have a hint?
sure. She was in movies, but her big TV break happened around 2012 when this movie came out.
Oh my god.
And I wonder if it was because of the show that she turned it down. Well, obviously they didn't put him in the movie, but I'm wondering if maybe they were in talks and then she booked this TV show and then they decided to just cut the two of them all together to save time. Um,
I have a guess still. It's
all right, what's your guess?
ridiculous, but it's a guess. Zoe Deschanel?
That is correct. So Joss Whedon originally wanted Zoe Deschanel to
Wow.
be the Wasp in this movie when he originally wanted Ant-Man and the Wasp to be in it. Very interesting. A lot of things about this movie that like were very different than how it turned out. Like this was originally rated R because of a scene that we'll talk about later. It was a lot more graphic.
This
And
movie?
this movie was originally going to be rated R, and then they had to edit it to make it less graphic because when they first showed it to the ratings committee, they were like, "Yep, this is R," and they were like, "Oh, we need to fix that because we want families to go and see this." So it's PG-13, but there was a moment that was quite graphic that made an R-rated movie. A moment, which we'll talk about when we get there, because
Wow.
I don't want to spoil it now because some people
I
haven't seen
gotta
this movie.
say, I can't imagine Zoe Deschanel being in a superhero movie unless she's just like the damsel in distress. I hate
Yeah,
to say it.
or
I
Darcy
mean,
Lynn, maybe like that type of role.
oh yeah, maybe.
Actually,
But
it's
I
funny
don't know.
because speaking
I
of
love her
Darcy and
so much
Jane,
that she is welcome to prove me wrong if she wants
right?
to like, pull like a Brie Larson and like work out for like a bunch for a few months and like, jump into a suit. I would love for, she can do no wrong
Yeah,
in my eyes. So,
yeah. I was gonna say, speaking of Darcy Lynn, though, Jane Foster was actually supposed to be in this movie, but Natalie Portman got pregnant, which is great for her, but that kind of like put a halt on her until Thor: The Dark World. But she
oh,
was
do you
supposed to be in this
mean
movie as well.
when you say Darcy Lynn, you're talking about Kat Dennings' character?
Yes,
Darcy Lewis.
Darcy Lewis. Who's Darcy Lynn? Oh, Darcy Lynn's the little girl from America's Got Talent. My bad. The little
Yeah.
ventriloquist girl.
Oh, really? That
Yeah,
girl?
Darcy Lynn.
Where is she now?
Big. She's a big ventriloquist. She's making the money in Vegas.
Oh, good for her.
I think. I hope. She's
I
very
hope
talented.
too. I wish her a long and prosperous career. And now we got him.
Yeah.
This is very much taking a different, um, you know, what's that word? Formula. It's definitely it's a crink in the formula here where we don't really ever like have our villain locked up and then they break free and we have to get them again. I feel like the only other time that happens is in Black Panther when they
Yeah.
catch Claw, and then even after that, as we know what Claw's fate is in that movie,
Right.
and it doesn't work out for him so well.
It's crazy to think that like Loki was the big bad of Phase One, and then in Infinity War literally gets crushed by Thanos with like
Yeah.
his bare hand. It's kind of sad.
Oh, Bruce looks so cute.
Did you say Bruce?
Yeah, Bruce Banner. They just
Are
like
you?
showed a shot of
Oh,
them
okay.
like
I
standing
was gonna say.
around.
I was gonna say I don't see Bruce, so
No, I'm
it might have been
watching Nick and Loki talk
right.
right now.
Right. I was just making sure we were synced up. Still, we were in sync.
No, they just showed a shot of them looking somber.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha. There he is. He's back again. this is what a lot of people say is like the strength of the movie is just them sitting around talking, and I kind of agree. I think, again, I don't want to praise him too much as a person, but as a writer, I think that's one of Joss Whedon's strengths is being able to just have these people sitting in a room talking, shooting the shit with one another. Especially because this is such a big deal, and we know we're going to get a lot of
Mhm.
fighting. It's cool to have these moments where they're just kind of talking about the mission, but then also just about their personal lives, like the scene in Age of Ultron where they're trying to pick up the hammer. I think it's really really well done.
Yeah. Are you chuckling at the adopted line, Dill?
No, I was laughing at the brain is a bag full of cats, and I wrote that
Oh.
down because it might be in a trivia match soon. Because that's what I do when I watch these movies is I wait for those moments that are just so irregular and funny, and I take them. There's Point Break, um, our second movie reference. If we were playing a drinking game, those would be the things we would drink too. Like whenever Tony Stark called you something that was a pop culture reference, like take a drink. But we didn't want to advocate drinking while watching this on a Monday morning, so uh, so I'm
Listen,
just
I
drinking
told
my
Dill
Coke
I was
Zero.
down. It's just like when we're filming this right now, we're obviously not filming this on Monday, but I was like, it's not a good time. I have other things I need
Right.
to do with my day. I can't get plastered in the middle of the afternoon.
Because if we were playing a drinking game, like everything, there would be a lot of drinking. I think because
I think we
things get
can do
repeated.
that for like another. I'm totally down to do that for another movie. I'll have a
Maybe we
few
do like a
drinks before.
Guardians, yeah, Guardians drinking game or a Thor Ragnarok, something like
Yeah.
fun that we and a little like you know crazy.
We'll get wild with it,
Yeah. It's really funny to see the two of them talk science because, like, you forget just how smart Bruce is. Because
Yeah.
Tony's always like the master scientist, like, or engineer, very smart guy. But Bruce is also just as smart, if not more. So
Mhm. I understood that reference. Are we kind of in the same place?
almost, I haven't gotten that line yet.
Oh,
Oh, I just got there now. I understood that reference. So it just happened now.
okay.
Are you ahead of me?
A little bit.
Okay, that's
Are
fine.
they with the scepter?
No, the ship is flying now.
Okay.
I'll give a time check. I mean, whatever the time is on this video slash recording, it is exactly 2 minutes behind that. So we're approaching on an hour in 4 minutes, which is gonna be exciting. I'll give a time check at an hour so we can like just kind of stay on track. But
Now are they with the scepter?
yes, so
Okay.
we just hit 56:30.
Okay,
Kind of
perfect.
kind of broke Harlem. That is the reference, obviously, to the Incredible Hulk. So we are now establishing that that does exist in universe because there were questions like
Mm-hmm.
with the recasting, are we just setting it aside? That line kind of confirms that it is still part of that universe.
I live in Harlem.
Yeah, that's right. Kelsey does. And how are you enjoying it? Let's talk about
I'm
life a little bit while we're
I'm
watching
having
this movie.
a I'm having a great time, Dill. There's so many cute bars and restaurants nearby, and I'm
Yeah.
right by a train, so I, can hop on and go wherever I want, and it's great.
I think it might
I'm
be fun someday to do like a New York City Avengers scavenger hunt and like find these places in the city that are talked about, like see where Spider-Man would have been swinging and like where the Sanctum, like the Doctor Strange stuff would have been, and where you know Bruce Banner tore up Harlem, stuff like that. Because it's interesting because later in the Battle of New York, there are things I'm going to point out in a few areas like that my dad himself like walked by every day that he's like that
Mhm.
is like where my office was or where this was, or
Yeah, yeah,
it's pretty
yeah.
cool to just see New York in these movies and be like, I know exactly where that is.
I would love to do something like that. I also heard that in this scene, Robert Downey Jr. was just hungry and it wasn't planned
That's
for him to have the blueberries.
that's right. I actually, yeah, I had something about that. He kept food hidden all around the lab because no matter where the take was, he always had food within an arm's reach, so he could eat if he was hungry. Because when they're filming these scenes, and a lot of the scenes take place in this lab, you're there for maybe a whole day, just
Yeah.
filming. So he would have stuff, and whenever he was eating, it was his own snacks. It wasn't scripted. And when he would offer the food, it was because it was his own snacks. It was never scripted. He would just offer people food, and sometimes they would take them, sometimes they wouldn't,
Yeah.
depending on how committed they were to sticking to the script.
Bruce accepted a blueberry,
That's right.
and obviously Steven is just kind of not having it with Tony right now, so he does not accept a blueberry, which I respect.
Yeah.
I respect that choice. And they're butting heads right off the bat.
Yeah, we should have seen it coming.
Tony's wearing a Black Sabbath shirt.
Yeah,
I remember taking note of that.
Because they sing the song "I Am Iron Man."
Yes, they do. Oh my god, that's incredible. I just thought he just like rock music.
Yeah, I mean he does. I mean that's kind of why he's got that kind of hard edge to him. But yeah, I am Iron Man. I am Iron Man. That's Black Sabbath.
That song makes me think of Guitar Hero. You ever played that game, Dill?
Did I ever play that game? Of course. That was something that was big in 2012. I like. I want to kind of look up what was big in 2012 when this movie came out, because like I was watching 21 Jump Street the other day, and they were talking about Bakugans, and I was like, Bakugans? I remember those. Everyone had a Bakugan at lunchtime. They would sit there with their tuna sandwiches and their chips, and they'd throw the Bakugans on the table. I was like, that's pretty cool. And I had completely forgotten about them, so that was even funnier.
I love that. I just think of 2012 and I think of 8th grade. We graduated 8th grade. We were going into freshman year that year. And I cringe thinking about those years. So I'm like, do I even want to know what was super popular in 2012?
Yeah. 50 Shades of Grey, the book, came out in 2012. So that was when all the moms were getting
Horny?
into that. Yeah, that's the word for it. Gangnam Style was 2012. The London Summer Olympics, I remember that. The Walking Dead started 2012. Wow. No, it didn't. It was the 3rd season, but it set a record in 2012.
What record did it set?
It was, let's see. Most watched drama series telecast in basic cable history. 10.9 million viewers for a certain single episode, which was big.
Everyone thought the world was going to end in 2012.
Yeah, I mean, what if it had happened? Like, we wouldn't have seen this movie. Like, the last of the MCU would have been Thor. Imagine that.
See, this is what I was talking about before with Cap. Is this scene kind of passed a little bit, but because I was looking down at my phone, but like he doesn't work for an institution. He doesn't work for someone else's agenda. He does what he believes is right. And if it means, digging up some dirty, nasty secrets of S.H.I.E.L.D., he's not afraid to do it. He's off going rogue on his own mission, being like, you know what, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to figure out why S.H.I.E.L.D. is so invested in this scepter and what they want to use it for. And that's why I've always found Cap to be so interesting, because I feel like most people think of Cap and they're just like, oh, he's a goody two shoes, like blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, he's not afraid to break the rules if it means doing what's right. Don't be snubbing my boy Cap like that.
I was gonna say we missed the 1 hour mark where I was gonna give a time check, so I'll give a time check at 1:05. So just remind me,
okay,
just so people can stay on track. Actually, I'll just give a time check now. So we're approaching 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds in about 10 seconds. So let me just say when we hit that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are at 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds. So if that helps you, if it doesn't, sorry. Basically, whatever the time of this video is, 2 minutes back is where our time code is.
Wow, lots happened in 2012.
That's the thing. There's a lot, a lot of stuff going on in 2012. I mean, just the movies I've been watching, like Hunger Games, Skyfall, one of the biggest James Bond movies. Like Wreck-It Ralph was 2012. Les Mis, that was a big phenomenon for us theater kids. But this movie was the number one movie of 2012. It was. It was the biggest grosser. It was the first MCU movie to gross $1 billion. The film's shooting schedule, it took 93 days. It was scheduled for 93 days, filmed in 92 days, so they had a day to spare. They hit their schedule a day. They hit the complete of their schedule a day before it was supposed to be up, so that's pretty cool. Actually, there was actually a code name because when you're filming a movie like this, that's this big, you don't want to draw a lot of attention to it. You don't want people showing up to the sets. So they always usually go by a production name. And the production name was Group Hug. So yeah, you would see like the trailers, it would say for the movie Group Hug, and it would be like Robert Downey Jr.'s trailer for this Group Hug movie.
Oh wow.
So people weren't drawn to go like show up with paparazzi and be like, oh, but now they do it all. Now they do it all on sound stages and studios, so like it's much easier to keep everything secret. But especially here, I mean, you know, it was very hard to leak it if they didn't go by a code name. The Star Wars movies do that too, also for auditioners, just so they don't have like agents bombarding them asking for auditions for their clients. Because if they just said auditions for the Avengers up online, I mean, they'd get swarmed by people trying to get jobs in that movie, myself included. I was the first on that list of like, I need to be in this movie. So I see why they do it. So Group Hug was the code name because, you know, Avengers Assemble, Group Hug.
This is another very good scene, Dill, between Loki and Natasha. This is just, I think, like my second favorite thing because like these are like one of my two favorite characters.
Yeah.
They're both definitely my top 5.
Right. It's just interesting. I like how each like main character gets a moment with every other main character separate from the group. Like you have moments with Tony and Bruce. You had a moment with Tony and Thor. You have Cap and Thor. You have Natasha and Loki. Loki and Thor. Like everyone has their moment with one another, which I like.
Mm-hmm. And they're both so intelligent because they both think that Loki, especially in this scene, really thinks that he gets under Natasha's skin and really, really gets to her. But like from what we saw way in the beginning is that she's incredible at, flipping it on like a switch and flipping it off just as easily.
I love that
Scarlett
shot.
Johansson, how is she doing that? Like with her neck, like she's making it look like she's so scared just by doing that. And I'm like, that's great.
I love that shot though of him in like the reflection while she's standing there because it's like he's getting in their heads and because he's always about the mental confusion and all that stuff. So and it kind of shows the presence of him looming over the rest of the group with him being slightly larger than her in the frame. I mean, it's little things like that like you don't think about when you're watching things on first viewing, but when you watch over and over again, you're like, yeah, you can kind of even see how height and positioning of blocking and stuff really shows authority and menace and, who's got the high ground, as Obi-Wan would say. You got that reference? Miss I don't watch Star Wars?
I understood that reference. I'm on TikTok. I hear sounds and snippets from Star Wars.
Speaking of, this week we will be giving you an episode of Draft Day, which is a Star Wars character draft. Unfortunately, Kelsey will not be on it, but she will hopefully have watched enough Star Wars so that by next May, when we do our second Star Wars draft, which we already have planned because I was planning out some categories with the other hosts. And
you're doing 2 drafts for Star Wars?
Well, there were so many categories, we didn't know how to narrow it down. So we said, let's do one with just characters. And then next year for Star Wars Day or Star Wars Month, we can do like spaceships and lightsaber battles and music moments and the movies themselves, like that kind of stuff. So it'll be more miscellaneous based in a year. So you have about a year to watch all the Star Wars stuff and get on board, and maybe by then you'll be able to participate in a Star Wars draft. But it's okay. We'll have more drafts for you. We already planned a Harry Potter draft also soon.
I can do that one.
Yes. Which, speaking of, if you want to be involved in Draft Day or participating in trivia for this league. There is a Facebook group. There was a page and a group, but the page we're going to kind of phase out because you can't do polls on that, and that was the whole point. So I made a group. It's free to join. It's not private, so you can just join the group, and you'll be able to vote for the winners of the draft day contests. You'll be able to put your name in if you want to participate in Marvel trivia. You can still comment on these videos and let us know if you'd like to be in Marvel trivia as well. But it's going to be a place where we can just kind of like consolidate everything, and then the hosts themselves have their own little Discord where we can talk amongst ourselves and be like, who wants to be on this and that. So we're really expanding the network here, like the Avengers, where we're becoming a tight unit where we can really communicate effectively and reach out to you fans as best we can.
And Dill, the point that I was making before in that Loki and Natasha scene.
Oh,
Sorry,
wait.
don't mind me.
Don't talk until you get your mic in position, because right now all I hear is your hand.
Oh, okay.
You should have muted out.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you until you get it situated, just because I don't want our viewers' ears to hurt. Just because every time you touch the mic, it does something to it. All right, I'm gonna unmute you now.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to lean back a little bit. My back was getting tired, and I didn't know if like I was going to be too far away from the mic.
Okay.
She's the only one that's like kind of able to outsmart him in that moment, and he's a very intelligent being. You know what I mean? So it just goes to show like how much smarter Natasha is.
Yeah, well, because she doesn't have, again, like a signature weapon or like a thing like Bruce is the Hulk, Thor is the God of Lightning. Like she doesn't have that one thing that like she can almost use as not a crutch, but like her thing. Her thing is her mental, her smarts, her leadership. You know, everything else just kind of culminating as one, which I really appreciate. I like how there's someone who's a little bit more, dare I say, normal amongst the group. You know.
We get the iconic genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist line. This is a really good Cap moment.
And again, like you said, the Tony versus Cap rivalry, it's brewing. We're seeing those early signs of it.
Mm-hmm. Everything that we see later on. And oh my god.
Bless you.
Excuse me, sorry. That just came out of nowhere. That sneeze just attacked me. Trick arrows. As we've seen in Hawkeye.
It's a sad moment here.
Yeah.
But it kind of shows everything you need to know about Hulk in one sentence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, you know, the whole audience was waiting, just like hoping he would just Hulk out.
Hulk out.
They fight a lot. I didn't realize how much they fight in this.
Yeah. You know, it's the first one, so they don't have a groove yet. But definitely later on in Age of Ultron, it definitely becomes more playful with the language and, you know, that whole bit and everything. But, at the end of the day, when the world needs saving and they're in danger, they're not just gonna let the other one die.
True. Yeah, this is like the peak of stuff. So we're not talking as much only because like this is where it's getting really intense and really exciting.
We're both getting lost. Lost
We
in
need
the
to
sauce here.
give the vocal cords a little bit of a break just because we have to talk for 2.5 hours straight. So including the whole credits because we have to get post credits in. So
If I was Natasha, I would be running for my life. I guess she's stuck under a pipe. Is that the whole thing?
yeah,
Because she's like, oh my god, this guy's gonna become a big old monster.
yeah. Ah, I love every suit reveal in this movie. Like they really
Mm,
make it a big point to like show off the suit because the suits are cool. And like we talked
yeah.
about earlier, they are real, they're practical, they're not CGI. Like
Yeah.
they're the thing. She knows. She's like, "Get out."
Yeah.
Hmm. I read that they took a lot of the sound effect department did a really good job mixing and making the Hulk voice, but it took a lot. They took the Lou Ferrigno voice, and he was the voice of the Hulk since the TV series, and then they took Mark Ruffalo's voice and a third voice and kind of like molded it into one for when it was the Hulk talking rather than Bruce.
Wow. Just that one look back
So
at
good.
Natasha. Girlie, run. Get out of there. That's terrifying. That's actually terrifying.
Especially like knowing now where their relationship goes and how they do form such a powerful connection, but then it gets kind of just lost because he has to go away because of the greenness.
Yeah.
It's sad. It really is.
Oh, and that stupid smirk Loki has. He's like, haha, it worked.
Yeah,
I won.
and that's another thing I like about this too is they gave them a setting to where like it's not a quick escape. They are on this giant thing, but it is
Yeah.
still its own little bubble that it's really hard to escape when there's a giant green guy running around and a guy you're trying to keep imprisoned who could freak everything out, freak
Yeah.
everything up. I didn't want to use the F word because I want this to be as family friendly to the ears as possible, but flip the F out.
We already talked about moms being horny with 50 Shades of Grey. I think we
Sure.
kind of reached the point of no return.
I was gonna say, you think like all the moms collectively like were big fans of Cap, like he was the guy, or do you think everyone like? Do you think there's some Tony fans out there? Do you think some people have the kinks for the Hulk?
I don't know. You ask my mom, and she's a Tony Stark fan.
Oh,
She is a ride or die Tony Stark. Endgame destroyed her. She was like, "So I'm never gonna see Tony again." And I was like, "No, mom, like that's it. Like RDJ's done." She's like, "Oh my god." She's like, "I don't even want to watch the rest of them."
my mom's a
But
Guardians of the Galaxy fan, so I don't think it's ever. I don't think any of that has anything to do with kinks or attraction, because her favorite's the tree. I'd be a little concerned if it was,
Groot?
but hey, no
Did
judgment.
you
Yeah,
just refer to Groot as the tree?
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, Groot.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
I
saying.
know
Like
what his name is.
she
Yeah,
doesn't like a she doesn't
like
like
it's
a
not a
person.
human,
Like
so
she likes
it's obviously yeah.
a being, sure. I was like, "Did you just forget Groot's name? How dare you disrespect my son like that?"
I think she's a Loki gal though. She really likes Loki.
No, my mom's a Robert Downey Jr. bitch.
Oh, that is crazy that like Thor gets just punched
Yeah.
and flown across the room. There's another thing that just like in terms of consistency, it's like in Thor Ragnarok, it seems like a much more even battle. So it's just interesting to
Mhm.
see like what makes it a little bit more even than as compared to now where Thor can just get easily thrown out of flame. We just hit 1 hour and 18 minutes. So we are past the halfway point, everyone. But we still got a whole hour to go, plus 7 minutes of credits. So strap in.
I think it's just Thor, he's very strong, but maybe he just gets him more practiced and, he has more technique in Ragnarok because he doesn't have the hammer in Ragnarok. He can't rely on it.
Right.
So he has to rely on other things like his foot.
See, that was a great shot, though. So maybe that it was always an even battle. He just needed to be prepared and ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and don't they?
I just think it's so smart how they use the hammer in these fights.
Yeah.
Like this moment where he's literally digging into the ground because he's trying to lift the hammer.
Yeah.
Now he can hold it as like a choke hold, like very creative. And I feel like that's one thing I wish more the modern MCU things really prioritized was the action choreography. I think we got it a lot in Shang-Chi, but I feel like most of the time it's a little bit more generic now,
No, yeah, I agree.
There is one in Doctor Strange though that's really cool, the new one, with some music notes that I really like. I don't want to get too far into it, but
I recall. And don't Hulk and Thor fight a little in Age of Ultron?
Yeah.
Because I just remember this moment where Hulk just like punches Thor and he goes flying.
Yeah, it's either in this or Age of Ultron. Like again, these Avengers, as much as they are a unit, they fight a lot.
Yeah.
They're not like one big happy group hug family all the time, Especially when he's a Hulk and he hasn't been able to balance. This is very King Kong-esque with the planes trying to shoot him down. Except he's even smaller than King Kong and he's able to take those shots like nothing. And this is why I think Hulk was always my favorite, because he was like almost indestructible. But there was always that really, really powerful like inner monologue thing going on with Bruce all the time of like, trying to balance, the rage.
I just love I gotta get out of here, eject, and he goes, nope, gotcha. But he's still able to release his parachute. So our shield pilot does not die.
Yeah, I've got to say, even 10 years, like the visuals still look great here. Like they really do. To where I'm sure a lot of this is like green screen and stuff, and it looks really good.
I'm sorry, like that was sexy. The way he just like punched that grenade into the air. Like, look me in the eyes and tell me that wasn't the hottest thing you've ever seen. He was like,
what do you think, people? Comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Tell us, is that the hottest thing you've ever seen? I've seen a volcano in Hawaii, so I would say that is probably the hottest thing I've ever seen. But.
Oh, Dill. Classic Dill.
Hawkeye's still in evil mode.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes sense why Jeremy Renner was upset, because like you really don't get a lot of him as a character till later on, and even by then it's just in the battle, and it's like you don't have time to really grow. That's why Age of Ultron kind of feels like his coming out party as like a real character, because we're definitely not getting it in this one.
Coming out with a wife. Guys, I have something to tell you. I'm married.
But you know what I mean, like that's where you get all the development from him, because here you're really not getting a ton of that. You're getting a little bit from Natasha, who's obviously got some baggage with him as a friend, trying to process this, but also like we don't really know their whole story yet. So like I don't think they did the best job with integrating Hawkeye into this as they thought.
Yeah.
As much as we love stuff, we got to be critical, and I think that's one aspect I don't necessarily think they nailed the Hawkeye stuff. And that might be why for years and years and years we were always like Hawkeye, because we really don't get to know him as well as the others here,
No, I agree, Jill. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that Jeremy
Ooh,
Renner, I would be stoked to be background in an MCU film. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. So there we see Loki using again his shape shifting to get
Hmm.
Thor in the cell. Oh, here we go. Here's some Natasha Clint stuff.
Like she's just so smart. Like she knew
Yeah,
he was going to shoot an arrow, so she
right.
turned to the side.
Yeah, she's probably the best like at combat period in the MCU. Like others, like I said, have not a crutch, but something to help them and aid them. She doesn't. Her help
Yeah.
is this. It's the brain.
Like she's so cool and I just like hate how like especially back then people have just written her off as just like the girl, the
Yeah,
woman, the
exactly.
girl one or the hot one. It's like no, but she's so much cooler.
Okay, so we're coming up on the scene soon where it was going to be R rated because of this moment coming up. So we will talk about
Mm.
it in a bit.
Do tell, Dill. I'm intrigued.
So in that moment, we were not supposed to see Thor there. They added Thor's screaming to cut away. Apparently, when they originally staged it, that scepter it was supposed to really like go through and like burst him and like it was supposed to be much more graphic. Um,
Oh.
which I don't even think would have warranted an R rating really, but in 2012 maybe it
Mm.
would have, when we hadn't gotten Thanos and hadn't gotten, you know, uh, well, I guess we had gotten like the Dark Knight by then, but you know what I mean. Like that was very much gonna be a much more graphic stabbing before they changed
Wow.
it to add that shot of Thor yelling to give some sort of indication that like, oh, that's bad news, but not show the full thing. But would have been interesting to see an R-rated Avengers. What would have changed? Like if it would have gotten even grittier, or if that would have been the only thing. Yeah, maybe that would have been like a blood splatter moment of her biting his wrist.
Mm. Oh.
She's so badass. Like I think I even personally slept on Natasha, um, as a
Everyone
character.
sleeps on
Like,
Natasha. Don't beat
yeah,
yourself up about it.
but only Colin Jost sleeps with Natasha. Um, no, but you know what I mean. Like, I feel like I didn't give her the credit she deserved because she is a great character and a really good fighter.
Yeah.
Whew. Wow.
Just barely escaping that crash
Yeah.
landing.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure even if he was kept in the glass thing, I don't think that would have taken out Thor.
No. Your heroes are scattered. Wow. And this is the moment, obviously, that like was the big death of Phase One. But as we know from Agents of Shield, actually Kelsey and I don't really know because we didn't watch it, but he
Mm.
is alive in that show. So this was kind of like a fake out moment. But I think if you're just watching the movies, it has a good permanency that a lot of other deaths nowadays don't. Because I don't
Mhm.
think they're going to bring him back in any way. But now they can because the multiverse. It's a trap they've they've cornered themselves into where they can say, "Let's bring this person back," and they can. We saw him in Captain Marvel as a
Mhm.
throwback. So
Which was very fun.
mm, a great character. Clark Gregg does a great job. Whew.
Oh boy.
See, I even like that. Like that. That's it's an action thing, set piece. It's kind of scary, but it's also a little funny. Just him getting like swept
Mhm.
up in that thing.
Mhm.
It's just creative. It's amusing. More of that musical motif kicking in that we'll hear in future movies.
Mhm.
Mm. This
And
is
he
a tough
gets
moment.
away.
Yeah.
Oh,
I wish they had developed these two's relationship a little bit more too. They kind of do in Captain Marvel, so if you're watching in sequence, but you can tell just from their acting, like they really bring a lot of that backstory that is missing in this moment, to where you really do feel for them both, especially Nick, who has one eye while he's emoting, but it can
mhm.
emote just with that single eye so powerfully. Wow. R.I.P. Yeah, like really one of the only like main character permanent deaths in the MCU.
I'm sorry, the EMTs were right there. They couldn't have come a minute
Yeah,
sooner.
I don't know. One thing. Oh, okay. What's interesting is in the original cut, and this is something that I had written down for trivia that they just must have changed for the Disney Plus version. In the older version, his arc reactor in that shot of Tony was not glowing, and some people thought that was like a sign like that his friend died and his heart had given out, but like it was just a goof. They forgot to like CGI the glowing light. So I thought that was interesting
Oh,
because in that shot just now, it had a glowing light. So I'm wondering if maybe they fixed that for the Disney Plus version. It's crazy because I was like ready to talk about it. I was
wow.
like, oh, here, and I was like, nope, nope, it's not a thing anymore.
Interesting. Now, how do you feel, Dill, about Nick Fury does with the cards here? How he makes it look like he had died with them when in reality, Maria Hill says later, like his cards were in his locker, not his
Mm.
jacket. So it's a little manipulative, I would
It
say, of
is.
Nick Fury to be like rubbing their nose in like his death.
I think, yeah, as a character, I don't know yet, especially now at this point, if this is Nick, like if that makes sense for Nick's character. I'm more just wondering why, from a writing perspective, they didn't just make it so he died with the cards. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't they just have him? Like what
Sure.
story
Sure.
purpose does it serve to have it be Nick lying? Unless it was just that this group still has not found their cohesion and Nick needs them to, and that's the best way he can think about it. That maybe that's
Mhm.
just it. Hmm. Now Thor's out in the field. There's a great moment coming up here too that I'll also talk about because looking up some research for this film, it was really fun because like there are little tidbits that you would never once think twice about um, until you actually see this. Oh, here it is.
Just butt ass naked in the middle of rubble.
So that janitor or security guard, whatever he is played by Harry Dean Stanton, a really legendary actor. Um, and he asks him, "Are you an alien?" And it's I'm gonna mute Kelsey just because that's loud um, on the mic. Um, it's funny because he says, "Are you an alien?" And Harry Dean Stanton famously played Barrett in the movie Alien 1979. So people were like, "Ha, that's a funny little connection." Because obviously you wouldn't think twice about that, but when if you were if you're a fan of Harry Dean Stanton, there it is. Are you an alien? He just said it. If you're a fan of Harry Dean Stanton's, you know that like that's like he's a character from Alien and he's talking about aliens. I don't know. It was a fun little movie nerd tidbit.
Wait, that's so fun, Dill.
Yeah. Then we got this stuff with Hawkeye. Again,
Mhm.
interesting visual choices. Like it does feel a little dated, but like I kind of like how it's just different. This style thing going on here.
Yeah. Because, we're seeing it how he's been seeing the world
Yeah,
under, control of the scepter.
right.
I honestly wish there were more handheld moments in this film because they just did,
Yeah. Right.
that was like it really felt like we were up close and in there. It felt more personal when
Yeah.
they were doing the handheld shots with Clint, and like now it's all very much on rigs.
Yeah. Interesting. Like we're now an hour and 33 minutes in, and this is the first we're really getting of Clint as Clint, which just feels
Hmm.
like we've said before, like a little bit of a disservice. I get they wanted to make one member be evil and turn good, but it's like we don't know him yet, so it's like it would have made more sense maybe if like Cap or Tony got sceptered into being evil or something. But I get why they picked Clint, but I can see the frustration Jeremy Renner had for sure.
Mm.
Um, Actually, it's funny you said the handheld thing. I watched because again, 2012, Chronicle, which is a superhero movie. I think it's more of a supervillain movie, but it's a movie, one of Michael B. Jordan's first roles, about this group of kids who find this like alien something in the woods that literally like gives them superpower, like telekinesis powers. But the whole film is filmed like it's a home video, like on a camera, handheld, found footage film, kind of like
Oh
Paranormal Activity
wow.
or Cloverfield. So it's like a superhero movie or a supervillain movie about these kids just kind of like at first they're just filming themselves fucking around, almost like, oh, I cursed, sorry. All right, this is officially an explicit podcast. Um, but they're like fucking around with their camera, filming themselves doing these crazy shit, like making themselves like fly in the parking lot and taking someone's car in the parking lot and moving it to a different spot in the parking lot. Like
Yeah.
it starts off funny, but then one character starts to like get a little too power hungry and kind of goes berserk with it. But that's like a really cool movie that utilizes like kind of like the handheld shaky cam really effectively to make it feel different. And unique, especially with all these superhero movies coming out with this. And then again, the Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012, the Andrew Garfield one. So it's had
Hmm.
something that's very different and distinctly innovative in its style. So if anyone wants a recommendation of a similar movie in genre but a different way of presentation, I recommend Chronicle. It's a good movie. Same director as the bad Fantastic Four film from 2015, but I can tell you the movie Chronicle is much better than Fantastic Four is. So do not worry. Oh, you know what? Maybe they didn't edit out the arc reactor thing because here you can see his arc reactor very clearly. It's blue.
Hmm.
And I think in that previous scene when he's sitting around, that's where it's not glowing. So they did not fix it then.
Oh,
And
okay.
some people have said that it's because of the Coulson death thing, but some people
Mm.
just think it's a goof that the editors forgot.
Mm.
They just really keep bickering this whole time. Like this is all so eye-opening to me because I'm like, wow, they've been from the very start, they just never really saw eye to eye completely. Who do you consider the true leader of the Avengers? Is it
I
Cap? Is
consider
it
it to
Tony?
be Cap.
You do.
Because
Okay.
even in this movie, doesn't Tony turn to him and says, Cap, call it or something? And then he's
Yeah.
like, I need people in this building and the blockade.
Right. That's why I kind of almost wish First Avenger was the first movie they released in
Mm.
2008 because I think because you open with Iron Man 2008, it always feels like because he's the first, he's like the
That he's the head honcho.
yeah. And I think originally when they were kind of like writing this film in its early stages, I read that like they were trying to make it more from Tony's perspective. Like it was going to open with, Robert Downey Jr. was like, I think it should open with Tony and end with Tony and it be like Tony's perspective through it all. But then it
Mm.
kind of lost track of what this movie was at its core, and that is a team up movie. And I think it's smart that they didn't go the route of it being Tony and everyone else and made it just about the ensemble effort because that's what it is. And that's what made it so
Hmm.
special and different from any other superhero movie. It was always Batman and Robin. It was always, Iron Man and War Machine. But now it was the Avengers. They were all equals.
Hmm. Son, just don't. I love that line too. I gotta say, Dill, I hate Cap suit in this This,
You do.
I just think it looks so cartoonish and
Yeah.
out of place compared to everyone else's
Right. Well, yeah.
suits and armor and
And
things
I
like
think
that.
that's one of the tricky things about making every movie in this universe fit in this universe is like if you want to go the comic book route, it really works and it's really cool. But then if you want to make it part of this universe that all is supposed to exist in the same world, it like you said, it feels a little out of place. Because personally, I love it
Mhm.
because it's like it's very comic accurate. It feels larger than life superhero, but I get the whole argument that it does feel a little out of place. I totally get that. And there's
Even
Jarvis's
if it was
voice.
just Yeah, even if it was just a duller blue, if the
Yeah,
blue wasn't so bright, I even think like
that's
that
fair.
would work better.
Yeah,
This poor crazy old man.
yeah. Which movie is he seen running around naked at Stonehenge? Is that Dark World?
Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, it's come a long way. Stellan Skarsgård, my personal favorite performance in Mamma Mia. I think he's great as which dad is he? He's the one with the boat. Bill. I think he's great.
Okay.
Have you ever seen those movies, Gus?
No, I
Oh,
have.
you need to see the second one. The second one is like the Godfather 2 of musicals because
Oh, okay.
it's a sequel. It like
Yeah.
continues the story, but it's also a prequel where it goes back to Meryl Streep as a child, and she's played by Lily James, and it's amazing.
Oh,
I think it's
wow.
fantastic. Glow stick of destiny. That's a great line too. It's also interesting to think about how like 2012 Loki does end up being the Loki that we see in the series Loki. So I'd like to
Mhm.
see maybe if I watch this and then immediately go to watch Loki to see how consistent he is with character. Because Loki, as Tom Hiddleston's job, it's hard for him to go through all that growth and then have to revert back to 2012 Loki in that
Yeah.
series. And I think he did a really good job, but especially seeing this moment now, it's like, wow, it's like he's come such a long way too, just as this performance has grown. So we're getting close to the final battle coming up, you know.
Yeah, you can kind of feel we're in like the slope here. We're like,
Yeah.
trekking up the roller coaster right now.
The 11th hour or whatever it's called, the 11 o'clock number. It's like, you know, right before the grand finale.
Yeah. We have a Hulk.
Are you calling the line of dialogue early or are you ahead in the movie?
I did it a second after he had said it.
Oh,
So he said, "We have a Hulk," and then I said, "We have a Hulk."
oh, so is that
I'm
siren coming from you or from the movie?
No, it's me.
Oh,
It's
see
this,
that's one of the great things about you being in New York is for this is like it feels immersive now. Like when you watch it, and
Yeah,
you'll learn this when you watch these movies. It's like you can kind of feel it in the background.
I'm having a 4D
You were
experience right now.
you were right about the Hulk line. For some reason, my brain always thinks whenever someone says we have a Hulk, Hulk is just gonna bust out like in Infinity War, but he did not. That's why I was like, I don't see Hulk. No,
Oh,
but
no, no, no.
he said it, but I missed it. That is a great moment too. Like I love whenever Tony's falling and then needs a suit to kind of like
Yeah,
mold around him.
we see a lot of this in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, which was on TV last night, and again, like I said, I don't watch these movies from start to finish a lot. I usually just catch them when they're on. Iron
Mhm.
Man 3, I watched like the last half hour last night. It's so good, so
I love
underrated,
Iron Man 3. I love
so
Iron Man
perfect.
3.
You know, I think it's really underrated. Here come the Chitari. Anything to add about the Chitari? Because I don't know the comic origins of the Chitari very well.
All I know is that the guy he's been talking to like the whole time he's listed as the other. That's the name of
Ah,
his character.
gotcha.
Um Honestly, what I was gonna say about the Chitauri deal is that they're kind of useless and dumb because they never come up again
Yeah.
until Endgame when Rocket is like, all you had to do was take out the mothership, and then
Yeah.
like the whole army gets wiped.
I think one thing about this movie that doesn't work as well is the sky beam. I think it's just because it's in so many other movies, just like the giant beam up to the sky and all these
Mm,
like very, like you said, expendable kind of useless creatures and stuff. Like I love it when like we actually like everyone they're fighting actually has stakes and it's not just one big like mess. You know what I mean? Especially when
yeah.
you'll learn when you're in the city. It's like, how much destruction is this doing? It's doing so much damage, it's, like, almost fathomable, and that's what they dive into a lot in Homecoming with Michael Keaton's character. It's like, that city cleanup must have taken forever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's
And the
almost, like,
city is
uncomfortable to watch as
always
a viewer.
constantly
Yeah.
I was gonna say the city is always constantly under construction anyway, when
Right,
like nothing has to be done. So when
right,
actually buildings have to be rebuilt, I
yeah,
can't even imagine what like the commute was like in New York after
right.
this big battle.
Ah, there go the letters.
Mm.
So, in these sequences, I don't know exactly when it's coming, but my dad, at the time this movie was made and released, worked at Titan, which was an advertising agency, and they had a lot of phone booths around New York that had the little Titan logo. So occasionally you'll see there are actual Titan billboards and logos in this movie. And I've got to ask him if like they had to pay Titan to use those or if like that was considered free press for Titan or if it was just because
Ah,
they were filming in those streets if they just like happened to get them in the shot and didn't realize. It's interesting cuz like there are a few shots, and I'll point out one later where you can see the Titan billboard or the Titan phone booth, and I was like, "Wow, that's like my dad. That's where he works." He doesn't work there anymore. I don't believe they're still a company now, or at least they're not as much of a uh, you know as prominent as they used to be. But just very interesting to see,
that's
just like
super
yeah,
interesting.
because no one really knows them by name unless you like really
Yeah.
pay attention to the advertising agency and stuff. But
So you
this
can
is
see that like them in the background
Yeah,
of
there's a
this
very
movie?
prominent shot, which I'll bring up when I see it, of
Okay.
yeah, like, kinda like wide shots like that where you see the whole sidewalk, like, sometimes you'll see the little Titan boots.
Interesting.
They're very subtle, but as someone whose dad worked like, see there you saw Citibank? It's similar to that, where it's like, it's just there,
Mm.
but it's like, wow, yeah, yeah. Whenever I see just this area, I'm like, "The shot's coming," and it's the coolest shot in the whole MCU still, and it's coming. Not this.
No, I know.
You know the shot I'm talking about. It's in
I
our
know
theme
what you're
song.
talking about. I know this shot. You think this is my first rodeo?
Yeah, like this angle, I'm like, "Ah, it's coming."
I don't know, because I guess these giant, like, worm things flying around do come back
Yeah,
in Endgame.
yeah. Well, because they're transported from the past.
Right. It's just like thinking about it now, it's like I don't understand the connection between this whole army and like Loki.
Right.
And I guess we don't get that until the end, but it just
Yeah.
feels a little
It felt like
random
yeah, like
right
it was
now.
only for the sake of making him have an actual group that, like, this group of Avengers could fight
Yeah.
and not take out with a big swoop, you know? Because if it was
Mhm.
just 1 versus 6, like, they'd probably be able to defeat him pretty handily.
Right.
Wow. Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth is great. I actually have a little trivia tidbit. Chris Hemsworth actually, his food diet, I was reading about what he actually ate. Every single day, his diet consisted of eggs, chicken breasts, fish, and steak. All four proteins every day.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
he said he had to consume his body weight in grams of protein. So think about your weight and then think about how many grams. Like,
He was eating 100 and well, he's not 120 pounds,
right.
but I'm 120 pounds.
I believe the Titan shot is coming up soon. But I don't, yeah, right here, right there. See in the
Oh,
left
that
is the Titan booth.
Those
it was very, very subtle, but yeah, like just those little shots are really interesting to see
wow.
as someone whose dad was working there at the time.
I mean, they
Um,
probably just, like, went around New York. It was
yeah,
like, took pictures of things that they could just make
replicate.
it feel more like New
Yeah.
York and not,
Or I'm curious to see if they actually filmed any of this in New York actually, and then just CGI'd stuff in later. I just don't see how you really can with all the destruction, but
Yeah.
it just seems like everything here was CGI, but I don't know. I mean, that's one of those things where it's just so many movies have come and gone, it's hard to tell what's practical, what's not. Because I think the CGI here, if it is CGI, holds up very well.
Oh, there's Alvin Ailey poster on that bus.
Yeah. There's the first Budapest name drop,
Mhm.
which again means a lot more now than it did.
Yes.
It's a Lion King poster. Just like little
Mm.
things like that, it's like, wow, like I wonder how many of these brands actually like knew their stuff would be used in the movie or if they were paid or not. Just interesting. Whew. He really does have some badass fight stuff to do in this movie.
Mhm.
Like it's much more gnarly, I feel. Like I feel like later on they make him more and more. Oh, there's a Titan ad in the backseat. You can kind of see the little Titan booth.
Mm.
I do like the snake-like motion of that big monster thing. I like how it has
Mhm.
like the kind of
It's like
fluidity.
almost swimming, like a
Yeah,
whale.
I kind of like that. Just a cool characteristic for something that has no emotion at all.
Yeah, it's just kinda mindless and, like,
Yeah, it's
it's
kind
not
of like
trying to eat anything, it's
yeah.
just flying around destroying
It
buildings.
reminds me of The Incredibles, how it kind of like almost feels like an octopus or a spider, that giant thing that they fight, where it's like
Oh,
something
yeah.
that's so inanimate can feel animated. Ah,
Mhm.
there he is, Mr. Chicken Breast Steak Egg guy. Yeah. Yeah, so like if someone is like 150 pounds, that's 150 grams of protein a day. Like that is a lot.
That's a lot of
Ooh.
protein.
Yeah. I remember The Rock talking about his diet for something being just grilled chicken and lettuce. No dressing, no seasoning. It was just grilled chicken and lettuce. And he would just eat so much of it.
That just sound like, why would you wanna lead a life like that?
Well, I'll tell you, it's the moolah. You get paid a shit ton.
I guess.
Here we go. Yeah, that shot's great too. Of it kind of, like you said, it looks like it's swimming. It almost looks like he's getting chased by a giant shark.
Mhm.
But man, as a New Yorker, seeing the streets just get ripped up like that, I'm like, I couldn't. It just doesn't feel realistic. But I know it's a comic book movie. But there we go.
I'm always angry.
And the music's swelling. We're gonna get the shot soon. It's coming. There it is.
Sorry, I might not be at the exact same
That's okay.
point in the song as you. Here it is.
That's just really cool, especially if you were a comic person in 2012. Like seeing that come to life. You know, because team ups like this, like you said, were not common at all.
Yeah.
Just so unique.
I remember seeing commercials for this movie, like, back in 2012. I mean, I had no interest in seeing it, but I remember, like,
What were the types of movies that Kelsey 10 years ago saw? Because this was the summer of Pitch Perfect. Perks of Being a Wallflower was that year.
Mhm.
The end of the Twilight Saga was 2012. Like, what were you seeing? Were those the type of movies you were seeing?
I was definitely watching the Hunger Games movies. I
Yeah.
was definitely seeing Twilight. Big Pitch Perfect girl.
Yeah.
That movie is honestly, I didn't realize how much it like affected who I am today until I watched it again recently, and I was like, "Wow, I feel like I'm just in a I'm a culmination of like all the characters in this movie." And
Yeah.
yeah, 2012 is a great year for movies.
I
There's
like
some
Pitch
good.
Perfect 2 a lot because you know me, I'm a Haley Steinfeld stan. So
Mm, mm,
that was the
yeah.
first time I was like, "Ooh, I am in love with you." Um, as a mere what year did that come out? 2015, 14. It's like a 16, 17-year-old. I was like, "Oh, you're amazing." The third one though is not good. Pitch Perfect 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
And somewhere, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop is watching this all go
Yeah,
down.
that's right. I wonder
Oh,
if you can
she's
kind of
watching
like,
this moment right now.
yeah, I guess you could kind of like look and see maybe. I'm gonna try to see if there's an angle where you could kind of see the building that she would have been standing in. Because if anyone here hasn't watched Hawkeye, a lot of Kate Bishop, who's played by Haley Steinfeld, her origin is watching this very moment take place from her window. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's so cool, and like that's how she was inspired. I guess that happens with actors too. Like when you watch a good actor give a good performance, it inspires you. I guess this
Yeah.
would be similar, you know. Or when I hear a Marvel podcaster podcast so well, I'm like, oh, that's my dream to be a Marvel podcaster. But
We're living it, Jill. Living the dream.
there's still a half hour left of this. Like, this is where the movie really begins to feel a little long, but like, I think it's justified its length. And at the time, this was like such a huge monumental thing that like, I'm sure the audiences wanted 2 more hours of this, you know?
Mm.
But at this point, I've seen enough destruction where I'm like, okay. This is great too. Again, she does not have flying powers, but she's able to still pull this next move off because
Mhm.
she's smart, calculated, agile, and just freaking badass. I would not do that. I'd be scared shitless.
Now Cap's like, I got to deal with all this.
Like really, this is a lot of. I know I'm going to keep complaining about it, but this is a lot of geography in the city that is just getting demolished. That
Mhm.
like if New York went through something like this, I couldn't imagine. I mean, the closest thing obviously is that awful stuff that happened in 2001, but it's like that was 2 buildings. This is like the whole city.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
This
could
is
not
like the
imagine.
entire Lower East Side.
Yeah, I would. I just don't know how any city could recover from this.
Oh, where's Kate? Where's Kate Bishop?
There she is. She's in the window. I do love this too because it's like one continuous take,
Yes.
going character by
I was
character to
just
see
going to
them
say.
shining.
Oh, it is in this one then, Jill, when Hulk punches
Oh,
Thor.
gotcha.
I don't know why I saw that shot. I don't know why I saw this in Sokovia.
Yeah, I don't know. They all kind of blur together at a point. You know, at a certain point, you just kind of got to be like, okay, this poor guy, he's been through so much.
No, yeah, seriously.
I mean, he doesn't know if he's the dad or if Sam's the dad or if Harry's the dad. He was just in Greece. having fun time. Oh, sorry, we're talking about Avengers, not Mamma Mia. My
Yeah,
bad.
you
My bad.
screwed up your movies there for a second.
I like that shot too. Just the
In
mirror.
the
Again,
mirror.
it's creative. It's fun. This movie is a lot better directed than I originally thought. Because like watching this, I was like, I don't go back to this one as much, only because so many movies have gotten bigger and in my mind better since. But it's something just so good about just how small this is of a group to where you really get a lot of great moments with each individual. Where do you think this would rank for you, Kels, in your like Marvel tiers? Like, is this the top tier? Is this middle tier? Is this like more bottom tier?
I would say there's been like what, like 24 movies?
Maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah.
I thought we're at 24. I don't know.
Well, oh, I might be counting shows as well. Hold on, I can tell you the exact number. It is 28. Doctor Strange was 28.
Oh wow, I'm way off. Okay, so there's been like 3 movies. Yeah, I definitely think Avengers would go in my top 10
Nice.
cuz it's the OG.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah. It's like in a Pixar ranking. Like for me, every Toy Story sequel I love and love and love more and more. But like the OG Toy Story belongs in the top 10 because it was the one that like really gave Pixar its worth.
Mm.
But am I gonna pick to watch Toy Story 2 or 3 over it? Probably. Am I gonna watch Ratatouille or Up? Probably before Toy Story, but Toy Story belongs in that top 10 for a reason.
Mhm.
Ooh, love that moment. And the
Mm.
little subtle little smirk.
The arrow catch.
It is so good.
And there go more letters.
And this is a great moment that just like
Because
again
it's almost like
continues through
Bruce
the
is like getting
oh
some revenge on
yeah
him, because he's the whole reason he changed on the
right.
helicarrier anyway. Puny god.
And that lasts till Ragnarok. I mean, there are references to that to the third phase.
The ragdoll smash.
Yeah. Natasha seems like she's the one who really just kind of calms everyone down almost, and not like a therapist, but like she's the one who has the real like heart to hearts with everyone. She can really get into the
Mhm.
person's like heart. That's why I always thought she'd be the best leader, but she kind of takes on that role in Endgame,
Mhm.
being like the
She's
one
just
who's at
always been the
Avengers.
heart and soul of the team, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this whole building is going down in the background.
Oh, made it that long without coughing. What is the tale of Jonah? Do you know what that is, Kels?
um so I I don't know, but I think I'm getting confused with something else. I think it's like this guy
There's another
who
Titan booth. I don't know what the tale of Jonah is.
he
So
did something where he went into a whale.
oh,
It was
okay.
about someone who like goes into the mouth of a whale or something like
Like
that.
blows
But
it
I
up from
might
the
be
inside or
thinking
something.
about something else. I don't know.
Pinocchio. Oh,
Yes,
here's the
I
shot
fully.
here with Hawkeye. Again, we keep saying the shot, but there are a lot of the shots in this movie, but they're iconic
But this is
images
one
that
of
have
them.
lasted. Yeah. Okay, so that moment where Hawkeye crashes through and cries out in pain, uh, Jeremy Renner actually ripped a muscle from his back to his shoulder doing that stunt,
Oh
and
wow.
they had to halt production for a few days. He was injured, so they had to literally postpone production for several days because he was not able to perform the stuff he was supposed to. So Uh,
I
they
hate
still finished.
watching.
They still finished a day after, a day before schedule was supposed to wrap anyway, so they were able to get back on track. But very interesting that like he actually suffered an onset injury, and you could see the pain in his face when it happens. It's like Tom
Damn.
Cruise in that Mission Impossible Fallout. He actually like breaks his leg on screen, and you see it, and it makes for a really authentic reaction. And it's obviously
Wow.
not, it's not up close. He's jumping from a building to a building, and he lands funny, but you don't really see it. But you can see the pain, and you realize it's real. These
Oh my
actors, I mean, they
god.
get paid for a reason. They get paid a lot for a reason, and that's because they put their heart and soul and sometimes their bones and ligaments into the roles.
It's intense.
Yeah. I love how I keep just deleting fun facts now after I say them. I'm like, made sure to get it in. Nice.
And now they're just planning on nuking New York.
Man.
And this moment really goes against everything that Cap was saying to Stark in the beginning, where he was like, "You're not the guy to
Right.
lay down on the wire, make the sacrificial play."
So you just heard the voice on the whatever it was, walkie-talkie or whatever, said 2 minutes and 30 seconds till detonation. The detonation happens exactly 2 minutes and 30 seconds from that point. So
Wow.
if you are watching this watch along, look at the clock. Obviously, we're past the time that it started, but if you rewind it 2 minutes and 30 seconds from when that moment happened, it should detonate, which is very interesting. And I love when movies pay attention to that. They're like, let's actually make it feel the length it's supposed to. Gives it that stake and urgency. Stakes. I always forget that like Cap must have an earpiece because like he just talks to them, and I'm like, how can he communicate? The guy's flying around. I'm like, oh, he's got something in his ear.
Yeah, they all got a little thing in their ears.
It's funny because Rhodey is nowhere to be found here. And originally, the plan was for their post-credit scene, they were going to have Rhodey show up in his War Machine outfit and say, I'm here, after the battle, and they were going to just be eating shawarma and been like, yo, dude, you missed it, as like a
Oh.
gag. But they decided to just cut it and just have them eating shawarma. But I think that's funny because it's like,
Mm.
this whole time I'm wondering, where's Rhodey? He can fly.
Yeah.
He can blast shit. Man. It is interesting to see just the films that came out in the decades and still coming out in the wake of a post 9/11 world where like you see those shots of them just watching the screens, watching all this happening, and them not being able to do anything and just watching in dread and terror. And it's like, yeah, like I think that feels very real and close to home, and it's sad almost. It's like, because they could see their whole city get destroyed watching all that go down. There's not much they can do but watch in terror and
Yeah.
fear. And at the moment of Pepper on the plane too, especially, it's like, oof. Especially with this too.
Yeah.
Wow. And there it is, 2 minutes and 30 seconds after.
Wow. That's super cool.
Hmm. How many times have we seen Tony die? I feel like it's a lot.
Well, I guess this would mark like the first one, right?
Yeah. Even in Iron Man 2, he's got the thing going on, right? With the
Oh, is
launch
like blood
reactor.
toxicity.
Yeah. I feel like he's always just on the brink of death in every movie. And that goes back to what you said about Pepper. It's like she's like, you cannot rest.
Mm-hmm.
You're just always at 100. Ugh. Son of a gun. It's a very old man quote.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you really see like Bruce and the whole kind of being one. that Hulk
Yeah.
is conscious enough to save him and not just be mass destruction, you know? Like, he has some sort of heart and soul in there, even if he is kind of still consumed. When you watched this for the first time, did you know the movies that came afterward to where, like, you thought he was gonna be fine, or did you think he was actually dead, or what?
I did not think that he was dead, no.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't 100% sure what came after, but I knew it was a
Well,
ton more movies,
what's interesting
and
about
he
yeah, perspective, like, 2012, we didn't know what was coming next. So,
yeah,
like, I thought he was gone. I was like, "Holy crap."
yeah.
Because back then, franchises weren't 28 movies long. That's great. That was
Yep.
improv.
Mhm.
Or it was yeah, because Tony felt like that moment where he kind of like awakens. It needed some sort of joke to make it move on because like there was really no way to kind of end that scene. So he was like, "Let's go get shawarma." Because
Sure.
apparently Xander in Buffy the Vampire Slayer has a line that's similar, like, anyone want to go get shawarma or whatever. So I think maybe it was like pseudo callback to that as well.
Okay. Oh, there's another iconic
The
shot.
shot, yeah.
I think I'll take that drink now.
Yeah, I mean, this movie just has a lot of iconic beats. Yeah, like you said, like it's one of the OGs. You have to kind of appreciate it for what it was at the time, even if things have gotten so much bigger and better since.
A little cameo by the actress who voices Ellie in The Last of Us.
Oh, I
Her
didn't know
name
that.
is escaping me right now, but she plays a waitress. She had way more stuff to do, but they cut the one of her scenes.
Uh,
Oh, the
Ashley Johnson.
Stan Ashley Johnson, yes. We
Oh,
have our Stan Lee cameo
oh
in these
yeah.
shots.
Rest in peace. Oh wow, she's a very busy voice actress. Good for her.
She's got an iconic voice.
There she is. Right, that's her, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh my god, it's Ellie.
It's very interesting. Just like that, the response is like, "Thank you, Avengers," rather than like, "Holy shit, my whole city's demolished." I feel like some of the pessimists would be like, "What just happened? Like, what are we gonna do?" But I do like how there are those optimists who are like, "Thank you, first and foremost, for saving us."
Yeah, I think I would, excuse me, be thankful to be alive, even
Yeah.
if, my home was destroyed. I'd be
Do
like,
they
well,
really
but I'm alive though.
do they really go into I can't remember, do they ever go into, like, how many people actually died at the Battle of New York? Or did any? Like, I don't know.
I'm gonna
I
say that
feel
there
like
were
there were.
probably casualties
Right, but I feel like
because
you
they
never get
kind
that.
of, you know, general.
Oh, well, we know Kate's dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he dies, which
But
I'm still
yeah.
like skeptical about. Anyway,
But that's one
well, I
thing I'm
guess
like,
they
yeah,
had a funeral shot of him. I guess he did die.
but we didn't see his dead body. You never know.
What's the guy's name? Oh God, now I have to ask you questions. Still, something's escaping me. Um, who just passed away? Thaddeus Ross. Is
Yes, William
that
Hurt.
his name?
Yeah.
Because in oh my God, Captain Marvel, Captain America Civil War, he kind of takes them through all of like the major battles that they've had. And they're like, look at all the destruction and,
Right.
and death you've caused. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that there were probably some
I wish though we got more of
casualties.
like that perspective. Like have a movie about the people who aren't superheroes who are just struggling with the destruction of their homes from all these battles. Like make just
Mm,
movies about that because now Marvel Cinematic Universe is so big you can make things like that. experimentally, maybe. I don't know.
Even if they just had like a series of like shorts
Barefoot
that
again.
they did on like, oh, barefoot again. Yeah, you're right.
See, hey, little filmmaking things like that. It's really interesting to see. And there's the A. That's a great final shot.
Mm-hmm.
And there we go. So we are going to keep watching because there's always something at the end. But thoughts, Kelsey, on this movie? So it ranks in your top 10, but like overall general thoughts on it. What do you think?
I mean, since having watched, excuse me, I'm just gonna readjust in my chair. It might be loud. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Since having watched the rest of the MCU and everything that came after it, this one definitely does feel like it lacks a little luster every now and then, because it is, a lot of cliches, and
Right.
it's not doing anything groundbreaking. It's entertaining nonetheless, for sure. And we obviously love seeing all these characters come together, but the MCU has just gone on to do like such cooler and more stylistic things, so that even though I enjoy this movie, like I'm never going to walk away thinking about the cinematography or the set design, or I think the strongest like technical element of the whole movie was the costumes, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Good
That's
costumes.
probably what I'll walk away of this
Yeah.
from this film thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, it feels a little smaller in scale, which is crazy to say, but compared to the others. But I think rewatching it now, I have a little bit more appreciation just because at the time it was revolutionary, and we
Mhm.
wouldn't have this franchise without this movie, for better or worse. I think sometimes it's like we need to escape the same old feel, and this kind of established that style that we need to break away from. But at the same time, I like how it gave it a more realistic style and made it feel like it could happen in your own world, which I really like, which some superhero movies don't do. So here we go.
Yeah.
How many post credits do we have for this? Just one or two? Oh, we have two, right?
I know we have one, and then I don't remember.
Oh yeah, we definitely have two because the one I was thinking of was not this one. So
Okay,
again, this is a
this
big
is
reveal
this
too.
one
Yeah,
with the head turn.
yeah. And did you know when you saw this moment, watching it for the first time, that this character that we're about to see would be such a big deal?
No, I'll be honest, I didn't know who this person was
You didn't
when I
think twice
saw
about it?
it.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because back then it wasn't a huge star playing uh, Thanos.
Who is this playing Thanos?
Um, it is. Uh, Give me a sec. Um, I want to get the name right just because. Oh, yeah. Make sure to stay on it because we have a last little post credit to get to. I think it's Damien Poitier.
Hmm.
Poitier. Damien Poitier was the motion capture
Oh,
guy
yeah,
in the Avengers.
I just remembered what the
Yeah.
second one was.
So yeah, first appearance of Thanos at the time didn't really mean anything, but obviously means something now. I love that Jarvis, Paul Bettany. Little do we know. It's so great
Mhm.
to see little things like that, you know. So coming up in the next scene, we know the next scene is the shawarma scene, and it's so short that I want to tell you a little trivia fact now before we get there. So you'll notice one of the characters is not eating. Do you know which one that is?
Yes, I do know this little
Yeah,
tidbit. Are we
it's Cap.
skipping ahead to the
Cap. No, 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 no. We're gonna keep it rolling
Oh,
because,
okay.
yeah. Um,
Okay.
just because if people are watching this on like a Blu-ray or whatever, they can't really skip ahead. But Captain America is the only one who's not eating, and that's because Chris Evans, um, for Snowpiercer, got a buzz cut and grew out his beard. And when they wanted to come and film this extra scene, he had a big beard, so they didn't really know how to, go about that. So they gave him a
Mhm.
prosthetic jaw for this scene. And he holds his hand over his face because the prosthetic made him look like he had, been attacked by bees, is what he says.
Oh.
And he can't really eat or talk with the prosthetic either. So you'll see he's kind of like masking this prosthetic, which is already there to mask the beard.
Mhm.
Honestly, I would have just rather them just make it film it in a way where it's just looking over the shoulder of Cap, so like he's there, but you don't have to really show him, or just CGI him. I don't know. But I think that's
Yeah.
funny that he's just not eating or talking because he's got to hide this prosthetic or whatever. So
Well, none of them really say anything. They're just eating in silence.
right, but who knows if they would have if he would have had the right presentation. But that's also interesting that they like went back purposely to film that scene, um,
Mhm.
and that just
All
comes
because of
into
an
yeah the
RDJ improv.
yeah, and that's also like where Kevin Feige would step in and be like, we need to add this or that to connect the universes. Like I imagine that Thanos sequence was very much like a an afterthought as well,
Mhm.
or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was always supposed to be the ending of the movie, but it's always interesting to see what post credits show and what they don't show and what they reveal and how far in advance they come to play. Because I like how Marvel has a formula, like one that's actually going to make importance for the story, and then another post credits that's just kind of there as a fun little gag, like in Marvel, Marvelous Movie Mondays. That's this podcast. In Multiverse of Madness, they both start with an M.
Mm.
There's a post credit scene that's very much advancing the plot, and then there's one that's like a gag to the audience and fans of Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. So
Mm. Right, right, right.
I don't want to spoil what they are because it's still fresh. But so that's Avengers 2012. We'll begin the post credits soon, but we might as well plug ourselves now so we just get out of here when it ends. Kelsey, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You can follow me on TikTok at Cause13. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like. It's Cause Productions.
That's right. You can find me at Dylan_Randazzo Twitter. You can check out my Letterboxd where I am doing a 2012 retrospective. If you want to see reviews from old movies like Best Picture nominees like Django Unchained or Argo, or even some classics like The Hunger Games, like teen classics, our classics like The Hunger Games. They're all there for you to watch or to review, to read, because they are not video reviews. But I will be doing some videos for that retrospective. This was one of them. I'm going to be doing an episode with Matt on Frame Rec talking about Battleship, our bad movie of 2012 that we're going to talk about. And then we're also going to do a picture this episode of 2012 talking about all the Best Picture nominees with Chad. Draft Day is not 2012 inspired. That is, as I said, Star Wars inspired. But again, it's coming soon to the channel, so check that out. And next week on this channel, we will be doing trivia. Two big trivia matches between Stacy and Chad, both looking for their first win after really tight, narrow losses. They'll be going after each other after previously helping each other study for this league, so that'll be fun. And then we will have the main event, which is Matt, a new face to the league, not a new face to the channel, who believes he is the Martin Scorsese of the channel. He is above Marvel movies, but is he knowledgeable about Marvel movies as he takes on Zach Love, who is the Nexus being trying to get his first win after two
Mhm.
losses? He has come close, but has never quite been able to escape the loser circle. So he's going to try to get his first win, and then we'll be on the path for the belt because we're going to have to start having some number one contender matches, some maybe like mini tournaments to see who's going to face off against Kelsey. That'll be interesting. Kelsey, is there anyone you have your eye on just as we fill the time until the post credits come up? Is there anyone that you particularly would love to see not go up against you because you're scared of them, or maybe excited to see go against you because you like their trivia skills? Of all the trivia competitors we've had, like who do you think right now has a shot at about really making a case for the belt? Not just those four, but in general.
I mean, I know Zach has an eye
Yeah,
on my belt. I know he has his eye on it, but honestly, I'm ready to find someone who's worthy of it. Like
yeah,
if I lose it, I'll lose it gracefully,
yeah,
and whoever that person who takes up the mantle after me, it would be great because
yeah.
honestly, I I want to meet the person who knows as
More
much
than
as
me.
I do because
Yeah,
I know a lot. I
yeah,
don't want to like,
yeah.
toot my
Here's
own
our
horn
post
or
credits.
anything, but
Yeah, it's eating
oh, here
shawarma, and
it is.
there's Cap hiding his prosthetic.
Ah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
good.
I see. Like,
That is just
I
so
don't know,
funny.
even something away the way about Chris Hemsworth, I mean, is just sitting there. Like, I don't know.
They are burnt too. That's so
Yeah.
exhausting. And
I
that's
love
the end.
this. I love putting them in something, like, so normal,
Yeah.
like, it just a fast food restaurant.
Yeah. So that is the Avengers 2012. We plugged ourselves. We finished that commentary. Thank you guys for tuning in as long as you have. If you did tune in the whole thing, celebrating 10 years this August. But of course, because the retrospective is happening in May, we wanted to just do it now. And because we have some time before Miss Marvel happens. Next week, we will have trivia. The week after, we'll have to figure out what we're doing. But we will also talk about the Miss Marvel trailer, which we got, and the She-Hulk trailer we got.
Mhm.
And I believe there might be a Miss Marvel trailer coming, or that just came, or whatever. Anyway, we're gonna do some sort of catch up, and then also talk about something, whether it be a different MCU movie, a different Marvel movie, maybe more Daredevil, maybe more trivia if we're really rolling. My voice is burning out, if you can tell. We did a lot of talking, but we did it because we love you guys. Kelsey, any last words before we head out?
No.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. See you later.